All right. Welcome, everybody, once again to the Jerkmonger Show, coming at you live and too early from Tampa, Florida. I am your humble host, the Jerkmonger, also known as Elliot Fernandez, joined by one of my favorite artists, my favorite new friends, too, Kyung Lee of the Indiegogo hit Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? I have not
So
slept yet.
we were just discussing how I am going to try my best to be an even humbler host and try to entertain you guys with my sultry vocal tones, but you guys are gonna have to deal with it. Let's see. Uncanny Kodiak is one of my favorite buddies here online, and he's also one of my
Absolutely.
moderators. And he's saying, "Way too late. I mean early. Same, Kyung." All right, good. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try to reduce my window so I can see the chat up and down. All right, perfect. All right, so the crowd is growing. We got 8 people, and very good. So this is a great opportunity for me, Kim, because I really haven't had much chance to chat with you personally.
Mhm.
But I appreciate that you wanted me to do something for you. So I'm excited about that, and it gives me an opportunity also to, at least while you're still awake for a little bit, to get to pick your brain about your character as I uh, develop this. I'm looking at your Indiegogo campaign. By the way, guys, if anyone's joining here or is interested, hey Rodwell, how are you? You can look into the description, and there's a link to Kim's Indiegogo campaign. And that's a lot of good reference in there. When you see your character, is the character the core look of your character in that armored look,
Mhm.
or is it with the jacket, or
Oh, I see. Yeah, the in the sample pages, the first couple pages of the book, you see her in this kind of it looks kind of like a plug suit that you'd see like some of the characters like in Evangelion and
Yeah.
like those mecha anime. And that's actually not her that's not her her costume per se. That's actually
Okay.
something that she kind of wakes up in after she's injected with the mutagen, and it's a
Mhm.
suit that's it has a bunch of type of sensors that kind of measure her biometrics. But yeah, that's I've gotten a lot of fan art actually with her in that suit, so I think I might actually do something with the suit, not just get rid of it after the first issue. But
Mm.
her actual like knuckle battle made in knuckle bomb's actual heroic design is the bodysuit with the hoodie and the
Yeah.
skirt.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect, and it's a great shot of it at the bottom of your campaign there. So I'm looking at that piece for inspiration here. All right, so we're working on a card art, right?
Mhm.
So what I'd like to do here, let me just switch over to our chat. I know we've discussed a couple of things. So the portrait is for the card art, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna see. All right, we're gonna keep it black and white.
Yep.
Okay, so okay, I see. So you're looking at something like the way I handle the black and reds, not necessarily black and red, but just we'll put it in the same border, kind of like what I just did for that for conflict. So all right, very good. Okay, very cool, very cool. Good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start jamming on layers here. So for those of you who are interested or curious, I'm working in Photoshop. Uh, I'm gonna eventually switch over to Clip Paint, but right now this is my native, if you will. I've been working in this program for over 20 years, so I kind of go with what I know first, so I can move fast.
Mhm.
It's a bit of a learning curve for me in that program. It's so weird. Is it shouldn't be. It's a great program. It's just for me, I noticed that um, from time to time I get a weird. Let's see if I can. This is not going to work for me. I always think I'm going to start drawing in blue, but I realize that I always inevitably hit D to switch back to normal colors. So I'm not going to
Hmm.
do that. It's not that it's a hard application to learn. Is that what you're using? You're
I
using
use
Clip?
Clip Studio
Uh-huh.
primarily, but I've my roots are in Adobe products, so I
Yeah.
know my ins and outs in Photoshop.
Yeah. So that's me. I've been working in so long that my workflow is efficient the way I'm working. So
Hmm.
let's see. Does she need glasses? Are they a disguise or both? Glasses, says Liam from Akashic Soldier.
Oh,
Does she wear glasses?
Knucklebomb. Yeah, she originally she's wait, it's I haven't slept, so it's kind of difficult to think. Nearsighted is when you can see close and see far. Yeah, she's nearsighted.
Okay.
So she's nearsighted, but after she's basically the mutagen that transforms her and gives her her powers, um it basically transforms her from what you see right here, just a pretty petite uh Asian girl to the the bombastic knuckle bomb. But part of that transformation also corrected her vision. She now has perfect vision, so she keeps up with the she keeps her glasses because that's actually going to be part of the story that you're going to be exposed to in the second issue, is how she starts to cope with her new. I mean, when you shoot up a couple inches and you gain just lots of lean muscle, it's going to be very noticeable. So she has to dress in baggy clothing and keep on her glasses just to kind of keep up with appearances and uh, not bring up any type of suspicion that she just went through a transformation.
Oh, snap. I like this character so much. Uh, I'm just concentrating on my borders here.
Mhm.
I love that. I love the look, man. I love the look. I love the. What was your? I'm sure you've answered this question a billion times, Kim.
Mhm.
What was your big like? If you had one inspiration for her, maybe not so much. There's two versions of that question: her look,
Yeah,
and then for your story. What are your big inspirations for that?
Knucklebomb is actually like when I first designed her, she was actually my character from City of Heroes. It was a
That's right.
MMO.
That's right.
Yeah, way back in the day, 2004, I believe, is when the game launched and I started playing it. But yeah, Knucklebomb was my very first character out of many, but she was my main and was the character I would play as the most. So Knucklebomb, she's not actually influenced by any, and that's why I'm really confident with this character, and I can't wait to really bring her out. But I have a feeling that um, because I can't really think of any characters that are like Knucklebomb. I mean,
Hmm.
when I designed the character, it wasn't intentional, but if you actually look up characters like Armika from Street Fighter, Armika looks very similar to Battle Maiden Knucklebomb. Let me see if I could pull up her
Is she the
character
one with the
design.
heart shape? The heart shaped.
Yeah, she's the professional wrestler,
Yeah.
but the
Oh, I could see the resemblance possibly there. Yeah, sure.
it's
Yeah.
mostly from the Twin Tails and the mask.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
Knucklebomb's mask is actually not like Mika's. Actually, it's in the other character
Oh,
design
it's so
doc.
good, man.
But
This is exciting to see your backstage stuff.
yeah, I actually have a supplement book that's going to come with the comic, and it's going to contain all of these sketches, and I have all of these folders right here that have even more of the sketches. But uh,
Uh,
her mask is actually completely different than Mika's. Her mask is actually more like um, kind of like the Incredibles. They all have that
yeah,
kind of face mask.
the domino
But
mask.
Yeah, that's right. But the one thing that I really wanted to do with Knucklebomb's hair that's very different from Armika's, for instance, is her twin tails drape downwards, opposed to actually jutting out
Yeah.
and coming down. Like and the same thing with a little girl Lethal. You know, her pigtails actually come up and come
Hmm.
down, whereas Knucklebombs are just kind of. I wanted to have that weight to them. But inadvertently, after I created the character and put it out there, one of the very first comments that I ever received was, "She looks just like Murray Rose," and Murray Rose is a character from Dead or Alive. And I'm like, oh my god, just total
Oh,
facepalm, because if you just buff up Murray Rose is she looks like a little girl. But if you were to give her the body that Knucklebomb has, it essentially looks exactly like the character. So it's like I had, Mari Rose was not in my mind at all when I was designing her, but
right,
it
right.
just kind of happened that way.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. It's not, and it's not a that's not the. And I'm sure you realize this too. It's not a bad thing at all. It's really just a matter of having you're reaching into a well that's been filled with so much content and media, and so your subconscious mind, you just have all these cool ideas. It's the best of all the things that you love. That's all.
Yeah.
And you put your own spin on it. That's really what we're doing as creators and being creative people, is to, when you're designing a t-shirt design, from designing a character for a comic or a movie, you're just reaching into that place where most of your inspiration comes from. And that's why I like to talk about that, just to that's really cool. Yeah, for me, Atomo was heavily inspired by Shazam,
Hmm.
Captain Marvel, Shazam, and that was one of my favorite characters growing up. When I grew up in I was born in the early '70s, and I'm basically an '80s kid. And for me, the a big part of my young life was focusing on these great cartoon shows that I grew up in, the Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
And that particular one was always fascinating. I think whatever they had planned to do, I think, they say that Robin was developed to try to attract young kids
Hmm.
to the content. And I got to tell you, man, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's exactly what happened to me. I fell in love with Robin. I fell in love with Shazam because that little kid power fantasy aspect.
Yeah.
So it was only just a matter of, I gotta make that happen for me when uh when I decided I wanted to create a character. A lot of my characters, I have another story design that I've been kind of developing over the years. Um, it's based on Bruce Willis because I love Die Hard. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I'm not ashamed of that at all. I'm like, yeah, of course, Die Hard all day. What are you talking about? It's not, that's always been the inspiration for that. All right. So one of my things I like to do, just coming, and this is any of you guys who are probably, let me see, maybe some of the chat real quick. So I don't have such a large channel, but my followers are faithful. Let's
Hmm.
see. I got Humphrey Bear says morning. Good morning, brother. Liam says, yeah, that's interesting. None of her clothes would fit anymore. Okay. It's 4 a.m. It's late, says Eric Yuga. Nice. Okay, let's see. Kenny Kodak says, I see where we're getting people in the house. Good morning. Go ahead and show your friendly neighborhood artist some appreciation and through a like on this live stream. Indeed. Let's see. This been a comic on manga and loving friends with a share to the dome. Okay, okay. That's right. Please share if you love me at all. You guys are beautiful. Please share. Please share. Arcane Flash says morning. So we're gonna get a lot of mornings here. Sorry. So just to kind of, what I do is, a lot of times I'm looking for opportunities to have the figure break out. I also try to do some. I try to give my characters. It was ironic. People were discussing, who was I listening to? I don't know if it was in the conversation we're having yet. Oh yeah, it was with Doug. They were talking about Michael Bay
Okay.
and whether he's valid or not, which I thought was
He's
hilarious. And they were just discussing how someone was mentioning how he's brought some sort of value despite whether how you feel, you may or may not feel about the character or his films rather. Um, what else has he brought to the table? For me, that upshot thing, that the epic upshot
Yeah.
is for me the power of his work. And
Hmm.
people make fun of it, but I actually look forward to it. It's a perfect vehicle for that sort of drama in an illustration.
Right.
And it's one thing that I don't know, I would say from a comic or an illustration place, the artist that did it the most that I'm mainly aware of right now at this time in the morning for me, I'd have to say it was Alex Ross.
Hmm.
Just the way he would kind of depict his favorite superheroes from Marvel or DC, mostly DC, because he's always talked about how his characters, he's always seems more passionate about DC, although I think he's probably all over the place.
Well, I think just it the DC characters suit his style more, in my opinion, because
Yeah,
it's like, especially the way he approaches like Superman. You look at the way he draws Superman, and it's very much like a revered illustration of Superman. It's like has this essence of godliness to it. It's
yeah,
like he truly is a Superman, and yeah, gods amongst men type of thing.
yeah, exactly. He's it's because he talks about the DC characters in general like they're the pantheon,
Mm,
versus Marvel is, the way I see Marvel are the heroes and DC are the pantheon. So it's Spider-Man would, if Spider-Man existed in the same space as Superman, I think Spider-Man would look up to Superman.
sure.
Spider-Man would be trying to be like Superman, and Superman is the one trying to teach. He's the Zeus to Peter Parker's Hercules. Um, if that's a fair comparison. So that right there tells me a lot when you start learning about how, and again, he didn't create those characters, but that's how he sees those characters.
Right.
So that's a great way to tell your story. If you understand that, then when you attack anything, you attack it from the place of your, what the spirit of the thing you're working on is. So I love, I'm already in love with her. I'm already in love with her. I also know that she's a lot, she's a lot, she's still, let me see how, you have her pretty athletic, even
Hmm.
from above. I know that people would probably be most excited. I'm going to be doing another illustration for you, so that will be the full figure, and we'll take advantage. It seems like the hallmark for her so far visually are those beautiful legs.
Yeah, that's the hallmark.
Yeah,
12 plus years of commission work, doing mostly commissions for Street Fighter and Chun-Li. That's the one thing that I always tended to focus on.
yeah. But what's great though, this will be cool because this before you get to the legs, you got hips. So I'm going to give her
Hmm.
some powerful hips. Another thing I do, guys, so when you guys are, whoever's paying attention and cares, because you guys are probably sleepy like me, is I also like to angle my character out of the border I create,
Hmm.
just enough to give it a little bit of a something more dynamic to look
Yeah.
at. And this is, I like this, her silhouette too, man. It's really cool, very cool. Now I noticed in your hair, when you were showing the artwork, your behind the scenes stuff, I didn't see her hair. Uh, her hair didn't look that long, but in this illustration at the bottom, her hair is pretty long. Am I wrong?
Let's see. In the right here, it
Oh yeah,
goes
I see
right
it. Yeah, I see
above.
it.
Yeah, right above the waist.
Okay, perfect. So that'll give me an opportunity to use her hair as a device to kind of give this a little more movement and flow. This is this is the part that I think is the most important part of drawing. Often and I'm sure some people probably feel, let's see, Kyung, I am the same Liam Gray that defeated the 999 10-star 1 life bar survival challenge for Street Fighter Alpha 3. I love SF. Okay. What I try to do is I try to find whatever is in the character. For instance, characters like Hellboy who don't have a lot of movement. He's very blocky and he's just kind of, if you're not thinking right, you'll just kind of draw this character very blocky and stoic.
Sure.
Right, but and if you're not drawing the figure, when I'm just drawing busts, like I tend to for my black and reds, or torsos, they don't lend themselves a lot to action because they're just kind of in a smaller space.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is I try to find whatever I can to bring out the some sort of, so what could be used for movement, and if I have to introduce this foreign object, a weapon or anything like that, I will. But she's already got this great flowing hair. For Hellboy, for example, I'll use the cigar smoke. So I tend to draw him often with smoke, with a cigar, because I need that little piece of supporting prop.
Right. It's one of the elements that you use to guide the eye through the illustration.
Yeah. And that's an interesting, as an important part of developing a solid visual for your character, is giving the character something that works in silhouette.
Yeah, it's part of building the composition, really.
Mm-hmm. So you always have something like, you're just trying to give yourself assets to work with, even if you're not 100%.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So right here, I already see that this is one of the dangers of drawing in pencils. I tend to draw from a skewed place, and I can see I've already given her an oblong head. So that might be because of the hair that I've drawn. And so, right. Another great thing I love about digital is it allows me to work fast at this stage, and I can work messy because I'm not trying to erase anything. Probably my biggest frustration is whenever I'm done with an illustration or something I'm selling, original art I'm selling.
Yeah,
there's nothing but eraser shreddings everywhere.
Yeah.
Like a crazy man. So, all right. So, Shaun Fry, good morning, man. See you in the chat. And also, the Michael Bay upshot requires an up look. Unless I'm going to make her very intense and looking down on us, which is not a bad way to go either. But let's see what I come up with first. And again, working digitally allows me to edit and gives me a place to. A big focus of mine on my channel, KEUNG, is to talk through my process for those. So a lot of people are trying to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even from my Instagram, a lot of the people that follow me here are art students or people trying to figure out how to get better. So I'll often reference what I'm doing as a way to kind of help educate along the way.
Yeah, it's like I always tell, it doesn't matter what level you are as an illustrator, as a sequential artist, as a painter, etc. You can listen to a lecture or the process of another creator, and depending, it really doesn't matter what their skill level is. They might have something to offer you, some type of information, technique, or process that might be new to you. And so it's definitely, it's always a lot of fun, first of all, just to see other people draw. Like I draw, I've drawn all my life, but whenever I would, make a new friend, and he's, if he or she was also an artist, we just draw and share ideas, and just, how we go about creating whatever it is we're doing. So that's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm seeing an opportunity here to kind of, I'm gonna have to adjust the size of her head. I'm not sure. You have her proportions are very interesting because she is very, She's got a strong physical build. I'm gonna try to turn her head a bit, just to give this a little more, give her line of action a little more flow. Turn that out a little bit this way. This is the line of action here. Use her spine. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten this up. I'm not happy with this face at all, but it's okay. That's why I put it on a separate layer. Layers are beautiful.
Yeah.
The other danger, there is a danger in working digitally though for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the tendency I have to dive deep because I'm usually working at a higher resolution.
Yeah.
And I'll dive too deep into the illustration to especially for things that are being published. I used to do it all the time in t-shirt work. There's a point of diminishing return where you're creating or adding elements that you will never be seen, especially in comics.
Right.
The final product is always so small. No matter how you look at it, even if you do an oversized graphic novel, it's very. I'm not doing an oversized graphic novel, so you're never going to see that much detail. This is different. This is, well, no, this is actually similar because this will be a card, right? This particular idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one will be a
So,
card.
so it's like basically a small panel. So I have to be thinking that as well. Like you can't just. That's also, I think, part of the. I'm giving away a lot of my own fears, if you will. One of the big challenges I think we have sometimes is timing. I don't know that sometimes we spend time on drawing things that hold up the process and keep us from producing the thing we want to produce.
Mm.
Um, and if we're not careful, I love how efficient your work is. You have a very clean, open style. It looks good. When you the danger of working in a style that I tend to work in is that I'm adding, I'm noodling, I'm looking for textures, and while that's great for a poster,
Mm-hmm.
or an 11 by 17 print or something, that's not necessarily a perfect approach um, for comic panels or anything of that size. Anything that's smaller than 2 by 3 is going to get obliterated. So the point is, if you're working in something like that, guys, keep it bold. Consider boldness as part of your approach. I
Mm-hmm.
also have a thing for puffy lips.
But
Uh,
it's also an issue of readability as well, and that's
yes.
once again it all comes down to the composition. You have to take a lot of things into consideration and that's why it's one of the most complicated. It's the beginning of the process, and it's also one of the most important, but also the most complicated. I mean, like Mike Miller says that um, when he's composing a page, when he's thinking about how the panels are going to be laid out, he has to actually have that's when he has to have silence, when he has to actually concentrate and think about it. It's like, how are you going to lay this out? And then you have to take into consideration the dimensions that you're working within, the restrictions that you have to abide by. And all of that comes into play during the planning phase.
Yeah. Yeah. So this part of this step right here, to your point, is super critical because this is the backbone for everything you're going to do after this. Whether if you're going to make this into a great illustration or a comic or blah 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 blah,
Hmm.
with the wrong kind of planning, and trust me, I'm the king of bad planning. You can easily box yourself into a space where you're uh, you're doing more than you need to, and it's taking up time. And next thing you know,
Hmm.
you're you're struggling to meet the deadline, and that's always something that's going to harm you. So the way to offset that is to just have a good plan up front. Now, some people, that's also, planning part can also become very immobilizing as well, because I think some people are afraid of that. It's very
Oh yeah.
debilitating step as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's intimidating. It's intimidating. But once you get into it, like even this, this isn't. I'm still working out some details here, what have you, but it's starting to come together. And because I've done a decent enough overall sketch, I have to keep looking and see. I can see her head's a little small. Maybe no, I'll keep going. Maybe it's too long. Maybe it's too high. But anyway, that kind of thing right there, it helps, just to get you going in the right direction, so you're not meandering. I call it meandering about in your illustration.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Photoshop did some new things, and it's driving me crazy with the transform tool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, how before, if you just hit Control T or Command T, you'd have to, if you try to attack the item just to transform it, it would be loose, and you would hold down Shift to constrain it.
Yeah.
Well, now it's constrained automatically, and you have to hold down Shift to be loose.
Oh
And
really?
and I can't remember which keys now to, like, if I want to just move one side in, and it's a lot different. Well, not a lot different, but it's different enough that it's driving me insane.
Hmm.
Right. So the other thing I can do when I'm working digital is I can also, this is helpful as well, is to flip my canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give people, where is that at? Anyway, so I'm going to edit. Is it image? It's been a while. Flip canvas horizontal. Of course, when I say it, it just makes everything take forever. Yeah. So what I want to also do is, I don't want her to be too masculine, even though she's strong. She's not masculine, so I have to be careful that I'm keeping her proportions. Maybe her shoulders are too broad.
Mm-hmm.
Her fists are large. I'm gonna play with that a little bit. That's why I was thinking her head may be too small.
Yeah, the balance between the having, because you can go and make her like what Marvel's doing with She-Hulk, and that's just so masculine. It's like,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, but just getting that balance of the masculine and the feminine, and Frank Cho does it very well, and he's kind of like he's the bar for me, in being able to balance that. And one thing that I really enjoy about his work is, Knucklebomb is obviously a very muscular character, but at the same time, I want to convey that there's a softness to it too. And so, yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. So what I might do here, actually, I might just turn her a bit back so she's not so turned. So I think I have a little bit. I get to overlap that corner nicely for some drama in the composition. I'm also going to reduce the size of her hands. Another thing that's important about this stage is that this is happening at a part of the illustration where it's okay. You're not stressing over the fact that, oh no, I like that hand. I didn't want to change that. And then sometimes the temptation is to try to work around what you like the most and not what's good for the illustration.
Yeah. That's why I was told, never fall in love with your illustration. Everything can be discarded. I kind of had that mentality.
Yeah. So that's why it's so helpful to do it at this stage. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And working digitally, we're allowed to, it's easier to do that, opposed to traditionally. If you drew something, like I have a bit of a checkpoint system that I go over in my YouTube videos. I actually make a copy of the layer that I'm working on if I'm going to be doing something, like if I'm going to experiment. So I make a copy so that I have something to fall back on in case it goes horribly wrong. and yeah, so I'm able to experiment freely that way.
And one of the another challenge I have is for so long I focused on male characters that it's the tendency I have to really fight that in the beginning is to when I'm drawing a female character is to construct a feminine shaped face. There is a difference. I don't care what they tell you. We're not the same.
Nope.
Maybe the same in a lot of ways, but in many ways we are very different. And unless a woman is supposed to be, or you know, physically has, you know, a little more masculine in her overall physical makeup.
Sure.
I have right next to me a bunch of books. The one that really influenced me the most in female art, and it was a weird because I had always paid attention to guys like John Buscema as my main. So I guess you could say the some of my earliest influences, but and that's where a lot of the realism, quote unquote, pseudo realism comes from. But for me, it's the one that kind of broke me and taught me how to draw ladies or females was Bruce Timm. So I kind of went a totally opposite direction with that. You know what I'm gonna do too? I think her nose is a little too large. Also, not making her that feminine. A lot of what's key to the female form, I think, is in this regard is small cuteness of that is what I think helps. Okay, that helps a lot. Sort of. Now her jaws are really large. And this is why we're doing this together, Ken. So listen, so someone asked earlier how long were we planning on being here. I'm going to be here for a little while, probably for another hour or so. But Kim may be taking off, so I just wanted him to join me, and I appreciate his time with me here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You don't have to go. I'm just letting people know that in case you do, you don't have to stay. I know you're tired, brother.
Oh no, I'm good to go.
Are you? You got that much coffee going on?
Nope, no coffee, just water, which I have a very, very odd schedule. Did you ever watch the anime Bakuman?
I haven't seen the anime. I've only seen the manga.
Okay, there's have you gotten to the point where you're introduced to Nizuma Eiji?
No.
Okay. Well, you're going to be introduced to a character, and I kind of model myself after his work ethic.
So tell me about it. What's it like?
Draw. If you're conscious, you're drawing. And
that's true.
And you only stop if you're like your head hits the pillow and you're out. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm able, and I'm in a position in my life right now where I'm afforded that ability to be very selfish with my time and dedicate completely to my art. So
yeah,
I got to take advantage of it while I can.
That's great. Do you live on the East Coast or West Coast or
West Coast, SoCal?
Okay. Also, it is late, but not unreasonably late. I think
4:13 a.m.
Yeah, yikes! Still late. I've been my schedule. My wife. I went to my wife just picked up some new work somewhere, and she was working. And so when she gets home, I went to hang out with her, and while we were talking there, I just fell asleep in the bed. And it was late still here, but I was like, but the last few nights I've been sleeping at around 5, 6 in the morning. I'm going to bed at 5 or 6 in the morning. And I said, okay, we need to adjust that for tonight. Can't afford to keep doing that. All right, so for some of you, I erased out some of the hair because I felt like I wasn't getting the proportions right on her head. I think that's really what was throwing me off. I didn't get her actual structure squared away. And you can see that her eyes are a little low on her head from this perspective, which helps to make her look a little deformed. So I'm going to fix that.
You know, it takes touching a little bit on what we were talking about earlier about composition and intimidation. On, you know, one of the most intimidating things to any artist is if you hit Control N right there, a completely blank canvas. It's up to you to actually create something, and there's out of absolutely nothing, and that can be the most terrifying thing to anybody who's approaching an illustration. And so there are a lot of you know, YouTube, man, if only YouTube was around when I was younger, you know, I'd have been all over that, looking, you know, just I can watch Jim Lee stream now. What, are you serious? Like, he streams on the weekends on Twitch, and it's like there's so much information out there. But you know, it takes like I remember the very first time I got on Drawn and Quartered, I was really nervous. But one thing that I have to put out there, and I encourage, you know, anybody who's trying to make it as an artist, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is going to happen. You know, I'm drawing comics, and I'm on the live streams, and it hasn't happened yet. I haven't really botched the job really horribly that it's like I got to throw in the towel. But we all have our off days. Some days I'll like struggle on just a single panel, and it's just for whatever reason I'm off. I can't draw. You just gotta stick with it and keep trying. But just remember that it's all a process. It's all part of the learning process, and you know, don't let it discourage you from you know, from drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on here. Oh, good.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that Doug and I were just discussing this weekend was we're thinking about doing a thing where we're gonna take artists like some of these art books that we've been collecting, and this will help, I think, a lot of people to take some of the art books or whatever and try to recreate specific things, like from some of the modern masters, if you will, some of the designers and such. We're going to be doing that with things like perspective.
Yeah. So art studies.
Yeah.
I do. Like, one of the great ones to do is like take Frazetta's work, and he's like a master of values, and it's just taking his work, making a little thumbnail, and just breaking down the values. It's like you see just how much of a masterclass he was at the way he approached his paintings.
Yeah. So that's, maybe you can get in on that with us sometimes.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, we're gonna, because he's, you know, as he's working through his book, he's had, you know, he feels that same kind of pain. So even Doug Tenaple, who's done so many graphic novels in his life, even he still struggles with this sort of thing. And to your point, and you know, there's a lot of value in this idea of, you know, just drive on. But there's also a point that I was an old mentor of mine taught me, which was, you know, there's nothing wrong, and really you should take a little time to sharpen your axe if you're chopping down a tree. And a lot of people will you know, they'll put a lot of time and practice into wrong practices. So I'm excited about the opportunity to kind of like say, you know, let's take some of these guys, these books that we've all collected over the years on how to draw this and what to draw there. Take some of these artists like Scott Robertson and some of those other designers and concept artists, and let's take apart their work a little bit so we can try to understand what it takes. So it helps to take a little moment, not just there to, one, to push forward, two, to take a little time for exercising. I mean, literally, you have to. It's good for everyone to walk every day, to work out, or whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
So to do it the same thing for your art. Do some creative exercises that'll help you overcome those things. The only way to overcome them, to King's point, is to just do them.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and then you'll get it when you get the confidence from just doing. Then you can start. Okay, well, what else can I do that's more? It's going to really help me achieve the goal that I'm shooting for. So then it's going back to that idea of planning. We're going to plan for success now. We're going to start taking time to try things out, not just because I'm self-taught primarily,
Mhm.
and I've also self-taught myself to do very bad things, poor practices. So I'm excited about that as well. Yeah, I a good friend of mine, this is the reason why I wanted to jump in. I said, man, I've been waiting for a long time, and I've held back because I didn't have this right. There was never going to be a right time. It's like having a family. Just do it. You'll figure out along the way. But if you can get some advice, there you go. To your point, man, can you believe it, man? Jim Lee's on here. All kinds of artists. Instagram is full of these guys are always sharing their process.
Yeah.
You just gotta look. Just gotta look. Open your eyes. Let's see. Okay, so I see her lips are a little low. All right, this might be off now, so I'm gonna have to adjust everything here. What else do you have going on in your life these days, Kim?
Well, I have I have Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb is what I'm working on primarily. But when I'm while I'm also working on Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb, I'm working on another book with that Umbrella guy.
Oh yeah.
And that one is that one will be launching later on this year. And I'm currently getting pages and the cover art for the book ready for an Indiegogo presentation. But
How many pages are you preparing for that?
I'm sorry, what?
How many pages are you planning to have?
That book is going to be in the mid 20s range, somewhere around there. So we're looking 24, 26 maybe.
Are you gonna? Okay, so you can do a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning on releasing it as a what format?
It's
Graphic
gonna be
novel, floppy?
Yeah, it's gonna be a floppy. Um, the whole the whole idea behind the book is that it's going to be mostly like a vehicle uh for his daughter, Umbrella Girl, because
Oh,
Tug's daughter is kind of like the guest star of his show, and people love her cameos and her stories especially. And I joked with Tug one time, she had just finished telling one of her dark stories, and and I'm like, once she gets old enough, I'm drawing her comic. And so with all the craziness that's happened with his channel, and I wanted um to help him out, because what they did to his channel was absolutely terrible. And it's like, dude,
yeah,
let's do a comic together. I mean, you are one of the most prominent voices in this entire movement, and let's why not? I mean, he had another project in the works. I haven't heard about it in a while though, so I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, he's co-writing the book. I'm going to be drawing it, and it's going to be a book that's accessible for all ages. And
right.
it's going to be a kid's book, but it's not going to pander to kids. It's not going to I feel that if we're going to be giving kids a book, let's give them a book that they can enjoy without feeling like they're being pandered to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And isn't that interesting? It's hard because in me, I have a couple of children's books that I've been wanting to do,
Hmm.
and and I've worked with children for so long. I have my own children,
Yeah.
and one of the things I've always been a fan. This is going to sound weird, but I love children's programming, like
Mm.
Nickelodeon and not the, not the teen stuff, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean your like Noggin and some of those things.
Yeah.
I always love the tranquility of stuff that's developed for children. But the problem is when you're working on a comic book, that's the children's book is not a comic book.
Hmm.
You use comic art for children's book, but you can't go the other way. Not if you want it to be, you know, reasonably accepted in the consumer's mind. So it's always been that challenge for me. What's been great for me as a template to help guide my way is Pixar. If I could get it close to like a Pixar thing, then I'll be in good shape.
Hmm.
Right. So I'm seeing some other things. I love the way you draw the eyes. I'm making them too doughy right now. I want to fix that. Like your character is very attractive.
Thank you.
So I want to make her attractive. So I'm gonna lengthen her eyes a little bit more instead of. I feel like I'm developing. I'm starting to draw what I've seen in those trailers for Battle Angel Lita.
Oh, I see. Well,
Really not
like
trying
let's
to do that.
see. I'll head over to the design. But if you actually look at like since you're working on the eyes, if you look at Saya, she actually has what they refer to as surime eyes. Um, in manga, typically you have two different type of two. I mean, you have a large variety of ways and artists the way they go about approaching and drawing the eyes. But in general, there are two basic shapes when it comes to the eyes. There's tareme, or is it surime actually? I always get them mixed up. I think it's surime actually. But you have surime, which are these kind of eyes, and then you have tareme, which are these kind of eyes. And you can see these two eyes have the surime has the very distinctive point to the eye, whereas I did it again. I think this is surime actually. Tareme actually has the roundness to it. So Knucklebomb has the surime eye. So it's got a little bit of a point on the upper edge.
Yeah, yep. I see it. I see it. I see it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and Takeshi Obata, you know, the illustrator who does Death Note, Bakuman, All You Need Is Kill. I love studying the way he draws facial expressions in the eyes. And one of the things that I learned from, well, one of the things that I learned how to implement into manga by studying his style is approaching the eyes at different angles and being able to draw them, you know, with just approaching it from various different angles. So yeah, that was
Oh yeah. I see it.
and I'm doing a terrible job doing it, but
Oh no, you're doing good. You're doing good. Also, you know, you commissioned me to do this. The other thing I got to do is also I'm such a magpie.
Mhm.
I want her to look like your character, but I gotta make sure that I'm also making it look like my interpretation of this character.
Absolutely.
So I kind of still rely on that. Just helps me get through the hump here, and I can always. All right. This is just one illustration. See what I mean about comics? Just one panel. Gotta get her right. She's also busty. I like that you said that Frank Cho has some influence. on your style. I learned a lot from him too, from Brandy on Liberty
Hmm.
Meadows.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was Liberty Meadows is where I first found out about Frank Cho, and then right around that time I started getting or rather they were releasing the Shaun of the She-Devil.
Oh
Y-
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Well, that was an
was
important work for him.
Mhm.
That was an important work. It was it was interesting because he was playing around with this idea of being a little more risque. So they released a rated R version of that,
Mm.
where he released images of what would be the her Shaun of the She Devil, um, more of a like more nude situations. I was like, whoa, go ahead, boy.
Yeah, isn't that in those are the illustrations in his in that one art book, the what was it? I have it here somewhere. Apes and Babes, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's in there.
Yeah, his work with the ballpoint pen is just oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. Super patient though.
Hmm.
That's, that's not a short process. I love that some of these artists that I've almost grown up enjoying, that they're starting to become a different type of artists as they get older,
Mm.
and their success in this industry is affording them the opportunity to be, like what happens when Kyung starts to illustrate Battle Maiden with acrylic or oils or something like that. That sort of thing. When you're not trying to tell a story on the schedule, you're just trying to do this painting. That's what I see with Frank Cho. He's really evolving. Now, I'm sure that he's not evolving now, and this is probably what he's always loved to do. Um, because I'm enjoying to see that side of him.
Hmm. Yeah, I forgot where I read it. He released a Kickstarter not too long ago, and it was with a book featuring all of these new ballpoint pen illustrations, and he was talking about how this was a type of style and technique that he developed on his own, just kind of experimenting with the pen, and it's self-taught, and he really enjoys you know utilizing that technique, and it's like yeah, that's great. As artists, we're constantly it's just part of the process, but I wake up every morning, I go through my emails, I check out Twitter, and on my Twitter, like you hear Twitter is such a toxic, it's poison, it's so terrible. But I've said before, my Twitter feed is full of just sexy ladies,
Mhm.
professional wrestling, artists, just ton of I'll wake up and it's just a whole ton, a stack of illustrations coming from Asia, mostly from Japan,
Mhm.
and bunnies and Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what my Twitter feed is composed of, and so we're constantly taking in information. We see beautiful art, and it inspires us, and it's something that happened recently was I walked into my brother's room, and they were watching an anime, and I can't remember what the title was. I still haven't. I discussed this on another stream. I forgot which stream it was, but I still haven't talked to them and asked what that anime was. But I was looking at it, and I liked the way that they drew this this highlight in the eye, and I stole it. I'm like, I'm taking it, and so now and it wasn't in there when I started the comic, but there's a certain highlight in the eye that I draw that's new to my style. And our styles are constantly adapting. We're taking in
Mm.
new information, we're adapting it to our own style, and sometimes we kind of discard what we don't need anymore. And so throughout the process, our styles do change and evolve. So there is yeah, there's definitely a bit of that when you follow like your favorite artists, and you get to see them grow.
Well, yeah, and then and the more you look at, like, I'm looking at your work a lot now, because I'm paying so much attention that it's giving me what looks like hesitation. It really is just me. Well, it is hesitation, but and it's me thinking like, I like that look, I like that. And then so I have to kind of like, okay, I have to go through this, literally through this process of, okay, I'm doing this character from this style. I'm taking in information from it as I'm looking at what you're doing. It's giving me another idea anyway. I'm sketching out another idea real quick, and before you know it, hopefully what'll happen is you're not just. And this is where people will say, "Well, how did you learn?" Or I always tell people, you can. It's always good to in the beginning to trace, because you're
Mm.
learning from that person. It's later on, but you don't want to land there. What you want is to figure out what that artist is. This is tracing is just a way of studying,
Hmm.
and then what you get from that, you apply to your work,
Yeah,
and you know.
yeah, you have to understand it in order to really, really reap the benefits from it. Because it's when I was starting off, drawing, and I didn't receive, like, my father's the one who really kind of guided me as I was when I was young, because he's a oh my gosh, why is the fine arts fine artist. He was a traditional painter and everything like that. He went to college for it, but he ended up becoming a graphic designer. So he knew a lot about he knows a lot about traditional arts, but also a lot about the digital arts, which is why growing up I had exposure to all of the early versions of Illustrator and Photoshop, and I grew up with this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But he was really hard on me growing up. Like, he did not approve of a single thing I drew until high school. So he was really strict and really tough on me, but it was to my benefit. Having that kind of critique was extremely beneficial for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's awesome.
I used to draw Akira Toriyama. I used to draw Kosuke Fujishima, and I would copy these styles. I would copy their illustrations right out of the book. But then my dad would always tell me, no matter how well I copied it, I'd show him, and he's like, okay, you just copied that illustration. Now go ahead and take Son Goku and draw him from a different angle doing that pose. And I couldn't do it
Mhm.
because I didn't understand it at all. I was just
Right,
copying it.
right, right.
So yeah, part of uh part of the process is you do the homework, but then putting it into practice is something completely different. You have to actually put in the practice. And no matter how many times you copy an illustration, unless you're actually thinking about it and understanding why it is the way it is, you're not going to be able to reap the full benefits out of it.
No, that's absolutely right. And that goes back to a bunch of friends of mine. And some of the people that are in the chat probably have heard me say this before, but a lot of the buddies that I came up with in my professional career, they were all fine art students, and a bunch of them, one went to RISD, but several went to Ringling.
Mm,
And one of the things they always told me about, I always heard the legends of these classes where they would deconstruct famous paintings
hmm.
to try to learn from that what the artist was intending or thinking. And I've always found that very fascinating, that the idea of tracing or copying wasn't was which is normally kind of taboo um, in general when it comes to people. There's always this weird pride thing, like, oh, I did that, but I didn't copy it. That's not about pride. It shouldn't be about pride. It should be about learn education.
Hmm.
So it's, again, a lot of people draw things that are terrible. Um, doesn't mean and then I've seen people do copying, and then people get really proud too. Again, everyone's at different levels. I'm not trying to dump on anybody's where they're at, but I think it's important that when you do that, you do it for the greater purpose of the education part,
Yeah.
not so you can get more likes on your Instagram or something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of people have been approaching me lately. That reminds me of that. I keep forgetting to go to this one. Somebody's been sending me a piece of art that I've been intending to critique, and I keep forgetting. You just reminded me. But I've often seen people say, "What do you think about my drawings?" I'm like, "Well, I think you did a great job of copying Jim Lee." Oh, yeah. Well, that's you know, well, I'm just being honest. You know, if you want me to tell you the truth, it's all right. And I understand. If I'm dealing with a child, I'm a little different. I'm a little softer about it. But if I'm dealing with an adult, it's important that I'm being as honest as possible.
Absolutely.
Because God forbid, man, you'd waste all these years trying to do whatever you're trying to do, and then thinking you're headed somewhere.
Oh shoot, that actually brings something to my mind. I was supposed to make a video on on criticism. I don't think I did that. I did I have a little bit of a mini series, or yeah, it is a series now. It's called Murakumo Comics Academia, and it's just me kind of giving lectures on art and giving examples. But I recently, well, not recently, it was a couple of weeks ago. I made a video on, because these things kind of just, if you're going to take art seriously, these questions just kind of crop up, and that is style. You know, how to go about, you know, how important style is, how to go about, you know, influencing your style and coming up with your own style and stuff like that. The other one was reference material. You know, how important is reference material, and the dangers of relying too much on reference material. And then the third one was supposed to be criticism, but I never got around to doing the third video.
Oh, good. I would love to see that. Yeah, man, you're right. Those are like the big questions I get all the time. Also, what pencil are you using? That drives me crazy.
Yeah, materials and everything like that. You know, the thing is, like, to that, you know, it's really, you can get recommendations from other people, but until you actually use the tool yourself and decide whether it's for you or not, you know, it's just something you have to build up with experience.
Yeah,
That's something my younger brother was so obsessive about, because I have a younger brother who is also uh, not so much aspiring. He considers it more of a hobby than anything, but like for the longest time he was so obsessed with brushes. I have to get the brush that artist uses, because naturally using that brush is going to make you as good of an artist as as that illustrator that you are idolizing. But in actual fact, no, having the brushes, you know, is one thing, but doesn't exactly mean that you have the skill set that the other person possesses. So
then you're making a great point. For me, I find that when I've worked with with any of the tool that I'm wanting to use, like in other words, if I get a cheap version of that tool, if I can make that work, then that tool that you're obsessing about is more interesting. Then that now it's worth trying out a better tool. But in the beginning, I find it, you know, if you instead of putting all that money, like some of these brushes are super expensive. I keep going to the Blick store in my town here in Tampa, and they've got a nice collection of Isabe brushes, which are my favorite brushes.
oh, okay.
They're so nice, the squirrel hair, and so I have one. I don't know how I think what happened was there was another local art supply store that was selling off some of their stock, and I bought several, like kind of like for a song, like compared to their regular pricing. And these things they're like $50 brushes, and like, gee whiz, but they're
Man,
gorgeous. But don't waste your money on that yet, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna ruin it.
right.
You
I
know?
was with my brother, I was referring to Photoshop brushes, but
Gotcha. Okay,
but yeah,
gotcha.
same thing comes with actual with actual brushes too.
Oh, that's even weirder because the Photoshop brushes, I did that a ton of times too. And the reality is those brushes tend to be used by people, especially when they're created by the artist. Um, Man, sometimes those brushes are very unique in the way that they work. Like
Very much so.
I've downloaded brushes from some concept artists that said this is what I did this with. But if you don't understand what that person was doing, then the brush is useless because it doesn't work like the way.
hmm
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, just like you said, the artist designed the brush for a specific purpose, and a lot of brushes that are out there are mostly used for a specific type of texture, like
Mhm.
texturizing the illustration and making it look more photorealistic. So unless you know what the intent was behind the brush, you know, you're gonna be guessing what to do with this brush and trying to make it do things it wasn't designed to do. But no, my brother was mostly obsessed with, you know, line art because he struggles with line art and just looking at like, whoa, this guy's pencil looks really cool and looks like an actual pencil. I want to use that, and then never fails. You know, you try drawing it, and the drawing doesn't come out the way the way the professional does it. So
Yeah, that's why I'll people sometimes I use brushes like that now, but even like this, what I'm doing here,
mhm.
you can't appreciate the texture of the brush of this that I have here. So just use the regular one that comes with the native to Photoshop or whatever application. Just pick the main
Mhm.
one and just keep working. Yeah, I noticed that your brush that when you're working has a texture to it, and it looks great. But again, figure out how to use this stuff first, and then that's so even if it's not digital, rather even if it's not traditional tools like a Isabey brush, um, still it applies to the digital world too. That just draw well, learn to draw well, and
Mhm.
everything else will become an enhancement to that drawing, not the focal point. There's no one tool that's going to make you draw great. It's just you drawing great. But the kids are like more excited about stuff. All right, so I'm liking this pose better. I think that first pose was a good way for me to get to one stage, but I think your character is about action and power, and I
Mhm.
think I was focusing too much on some kind of Michael Bay thing. This can also be Michael Bay.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, I like this, and I could keep her more feminine this way too, because I'm just seeing it differently. Very not, very not She-Hulk.
Sensational She-Hulk was great, but I mean, man, I saw some people sent me illustrations of or screenshots of what they're doing to She-Hulk right now. And it's like, wow, they went ham with the muscles there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's an odd. Those are odd choices they've been making there. I can't wait till. Well, you know, I don't know. I, I don't. I try not to linger too much. Like I wish they'd go back to. I don't care. I think this is all they've done is they've opened up the floodgate for us to do our thing,
Mhm.
and for me to put my money where my mouth is. I have a unique ability. Not that unique, but in my circle, it is to create to create art at, at a professional level. And this is kind of in line with what I've been saying lately about not just being a consumer but a producer. It's I have to graduate at some point. We all have to get out of that mode where we're thinking, I just want such and such to come back to normal. Like we need more options. That's what I'm trying to
Mhm.
say. And so it's a great time for us to be creators.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate what's happening, and I I wish I could have the X. I mean, honestly, the X-Men I grew up with, I could go back and revisit that anytime. I have the comics, I have the
Mhm.
games, Children of the Atom, I've
Yeah.
got my Jim Lee books, I got everything, it's all still there. It's just what they're doing with it now, it's irrelevant to me. Like, I don't pay any attention to it. We were
Right.
talking about continuity on Mike's stream earlier tonight, and how it's like it's not our characters anymore. It's not the
Mhm.
characters that I grew up with, and that's why I personally really don't care about it, and that's why they lost me as a customer.
Right.
But, it would be cool if they went back to it, and I would definitely, check it out if they went back to that. But I'm not gonna, whine and complain and try to force them to do it because, it's they've already proven that they're not interested in what we have to say. I'm
Right.
actually at
Right.
this point just more interested, more invested in creating the characters and the stories that I want to tell
Yep.
and offering that as, an alternative for anybody who wants to check it out.
Yep. 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 Totally agree, man. Totally agree. That's exactly how I feel. I've been saying those exact words for months and
Mhm.
years, actually. When when all through the whole Justice League movies and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I kept telling. It's some of it was therapy for me. I had to get to the point where I would just say, you know what, those are not my characters. I have to accept that maybe there is I mentioned earlier points of diminishing return. Maybe there's a point of diminishing return for the way that I consumed those characters in the past.
Mhm.
To expect that to be, it has to grow, has to evolve. I don't. I'm also a professional, and I've worked enough in design and marketing enough to know that that's probably not the best way to go. But again, those are not my properties,
Yeah.
and my job now is not to try to fix somebody else's business. I got to find a way to build and launch and my business.
Mhm.
And my business is Atomo. My business is even partnering with people like you. I want to support this community of creators who are here. I understand. I really do understand when you mentioned earlier how people feel that Twitter is toxic. It can be toxic if you're into just the infighting.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you invest in that, I mean, of course it's gonna be toxic.
yeah, yeah. But if if you really take a closer look, if I saw a cadre of artists coming up on the horizon
Mhm.
who are not that bad, not as bad as you want them to be, and in fact are not bad at all and actually really professional, and that in fact more than they're professional, they're exciting. What if you saw that coming on the horizon and your business, your work came from one or two of the only sources of that kind of content in in media?
Mm.
I'd be a little nervous too. I'd have some terrible things to say as well. Probably I'd be like, oh, those jerks coming over here. They can't look at them. They can't get their stuff out on time. Blah blah blah. And I think that and you've mentioned this before. I think that's still important. But I'm just saying that it's easy to point those type of things out because they have to. That their livelihood is their eggs are in that basket, in the
Mhm.
Marvel or DC basket.
Yep.
But what's great is that we're living in a time where you don't have to worry about. I don't have to. I'm not going to wait on 10 hours on a line at San Diego Comic Con to get a portfolio review just so they can tell me that I have to work on my hands. I don't need them to tell me that. I can figure that out myself. Can I get a job and do it along the way? No? Okay, then I'll do it myself. And because I've noticed that customers that I'm dealing with are not that critical. They're excited about the ideas. So this is a really interesting time. That doesn't take away I think the responsibility we have to be great, to improve and be better.
Mhm.
But you don't have to be drawing Spider-Man to be taken seriously, or Batman. I really think we shouldn't try to be. I think we need to take ourselves seriously and our ideas. I mean, if the guys at Pixar didn't take themselves seriously, there'd be no Incredibles, there'd be no Up, there'd be no all these other great movies that we enjoy. And we forget sometimes that we're also busy imitating. You don't see that there's a lot of great opportunities for original stuff. That's what really this entertainment industry needs, is original stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what everybody's complaining. Oh, they're going to make another remake of this, a remake of that. Yeah, if because there's nothing else going on. I can see why now there's a lot of people like, oh man, look at remember that movie Road to Perdition?
Hmm.
I never occurred to me that it was a comic until like a year after it came out.
Hmm.
So there's room for stuff like that for if we would just produce it.
Yeah, it's also a lot of hesitation on the parts of the people with the money. They don't want to take a risk. They want the sure bet, or at least in their head, what they think is a sure bet. I'm sure that the people behind the Ghostbusters film, the new one, are like, oh yeah, people love the Ghostbusters. I mean, look at that. Look at all the
Yeah, yeah,
fans.
yeah,
I
yeah,
loved Ghostbusters when I was a kid. I absolutely loved them. And so when I heard that there's a new Ghostbusters, I got really excited until
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then yeah, that whole mess happened. They're like, "Oh, wow, why didn't that work? I mean, everyone loves Ghostbusters, right?" Yeah, except you changed everything we loved about it. You know?
Right, 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 right.
So, they have an idea, and it's like, yeah, that seems like the easy way to go about making money, but if you're not gonna put in the work, I mean, these properties were cherished, and we love them because the people who originally created them put a lot of work and dedication into it and earned that veneration. We love them and because of the work that they put into it, and you can't just take the concept and just throw it out there and hope to make it's just it comes off very it has no soul, and it just that's why
Yeah.
yeah the whole thing with the remakes, and it's just it usually goes wrong because of the mentality behind it.
So we're saying that there can be room for a remake if it's done with the same level of passion and
Yeah,
creativity. Yeah, yeah.
but then at the
Maybe you're
same
right.
time it's like if you are the one that is putting the hard work and dedication to it, why not create your own thing? It's a gamble, but I mean that's you hear about the injustice of what happened to Jack Kirby putting in all that work and not getting any, just that he deserved so much more than what he got. He put in so much, he put his heart and soul into that stuff. And it's like that's a prime example of, you know, if you're gonna put in that much time and dedication into your characters, work for that's why it's so ironic that what we're doing right here is we're trying to show that independent comics can work. We're trying to offer creators a new outlet to become successful independent of a big huge publisher.
Hmm.
Creators that are in the industry right now that aren't speaking up, they're just being quiet and they're carefully watching, because if we succeed with this, if we are successful and we show that this is a business model that can be maintained and
Hmm.
can be repeated, they're going to want to go independent, because why wouldn't they? They're
Yeah,
creators. So it's
yeah,
like it's so funny when I hear about these creators who are bad mouthing people who are trying to go independent, because it's like, you guys, your industry as it is right now is failing.
yeah,
Your job is in jeopardy. We are trying to create an alternative. Why are you attacking the possible alternative to where you can possibly go and pursue, you can pursue this process to make a living, creating,
yeah, yeah.
wonderful comics.
Well, it's human nature, human nature to be fearful. Uh, I again, and also irrational with that fear. Fear is always irrational,
Yeah.
and you're right. Like I said, because if your livelihood is locked up in the success of Marvel or DC, you're going to be supportive of that. It's very tribal. It's a tribal thing,
Mhm.
and they're no, 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 our team's the best. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
that's true.
But the reality is, if they're ignoring, and I understand, like maybe some people don't want to. We always give a lot of people credit, to be involved in the movement we're involved in, creating the stories that we're creating, trying to be individual creators and entrepreneurs. it requires a lot of attention to market trends that people that are in working that have a job. I mean, there was a long time that only people I cared about was whether or not we got our job, our workout on time for our deadlines of the old job I used to work at.
Mm-hmm.
When I left that job, all of a sudden I became an expert at what everything was going on in all throughout the industry because I was more concerned now about that sort of thing. Whereas before I was more just kind of casually observant of it. I was now more invested in it. A lot of these guys don't have to be because they're happy getting their paycheck. They're getting what they wanted out of that negotiation, and they're fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't afford to be that. So I'm looking at the market and I'm saying they have right now for now the luxury of looking at the market and allowing themselves to be deceived because they don't need to work that hard for it, that everything's going to be okay. But when you hear things like these comic shops are closing and the spots where your stuff is being showcased, because my mom has no idea who Jim Lee is.
Mm-hmm.
She knows, Hugh Jackman. She knows those kinds of people. She doesn't know who Dan Didio is. She doesn't know who Nick Bradshaw is. She doesn't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These are people that I respect, but at the end of the day, that's why I gotta be honest. I got a suspicion, a sneaky suspicion that like Jim Lee, for example, is he's creating something for himself. I think he's smart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very business minded.
Yeah, he's thinking about the future. What happens if that job isn't as stable for him, right? It is there now. I'm telling you, I gotta, he's smart, but some of these other people that are just fighting, I don't know. They some people have to fight. Like Joe Quesada has to defend his business. That's his part of his job. But I also don't think that it should be done on Twitter. I think that's a mistake.
It doesn't, at the end of the day, it just shines a bad light on them,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way that you go
absolutely.
about engaging yourself on social media. Act professional, and that's part of the thing about the movement is we want professionalism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very surprised at how how some of these guys have been behaving. I think they're getting caught up. They think that this is okay because it seems like I gotta be honest, man. I've rarely spent any time on Twitter. Most of my time is spent on Instagram,
Hmm.
and I didn't know there was that much chatter going on. And I
I'm
kind
still
of,
kind of oblivious to it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So am I. I only hear it secondhand, or I'm on that, that chat that
Yeah,
we have,
yeah, yeah, same thing.
and that's how I learn about stuff. And I'm always like baffled, like, really, this is something people are talking about?
Hmm.
There's literally people in the streets hungry, and we're fighting over this. I don't know. So I'm more interested in just, hey, this is while everything's while the while the world's disintegrating around us, let's just have fun in the process. I don't understand it. So I think, like I said, I think that that's a place for them to feel that gives a lot of people places to feel like they have power. It gives them a place to sound off and defend their tribe. They really are, in my opinion, afraid of looking outside the window and seeing what's really going on. Because I think you're right. If they could see it, they know that things are not as well as they're reported, and
Yeah.
they start making some choices. Well, that's another reason why it's important for us to do what we're doing now, because we need to be on the front end of that. Again, if there's going to be a new guard, I think that's what we're kind of trying to do here is create a new guard. It's going to be when those guys decide to come over, I think there's going to be a lot of the fans who are like, oh, I remember that guy. He's finally come and joined our side. It won't be a side, it'll be a necessity.
Hmm.
And it's important that we have our oars in the water now to get in front of that so we can help them. I have a lot of friends who are professional guys at Marvel DC. If I can figure this out, it's going to help them too, because I care about them as well. They're my friends.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, I'm liking this. This is more of my normal approach to drawing. So I'm liking the way she's looking here.
Yeah, that's looking great.
Yeah, yeah. I still may. Let me see if I just draw this shape real quick. I still may drop her head a little bit. I liked when her head was more tucked into her shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It made her approach look a little more intense. So I'm gonna try that real quick. Even that is better, I think. Okay, I like that too. So we'll see. I'll adjust it if I have to. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. It's almost like it's the equivalent, I guess, of what people get excited about when they talk about sports. For me, I don't care much for sports.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? Well, you know, this happens. And they drop this information. I'm always impressed when people know so much of information about players. I have a casual interest in it. I'm not anti-sports. I was never good at it, so I never got into the minutia.
Mm. I always
Kind
enjoyed
of.
playing it, just never really got into it.
You know, I'm like your Bakuman boy. I was always drawing. Let's see here. All right, so let's see what's going on in the chat here. I've been neglecting the chat. I'm sorry, guys. So sorry. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of commenting. Durkin, I see you're really or Durakin. Is it Durakin or Durkin? I like saying Durkin because it sounds like shuriken. Um, let's see. Wow, it's got a lot to say here. Shaun Fries, I'm an art instructor. I love watching other artists draw. You, sir, are a fantastic artist. Kyung is a fantastic artist. 3D Robin says, "Are you sick at Durkin or Durakin?" I really need closure on that. When you get a chance, Durkin. My OCD's killing me. Liam had to bail. Sorry, Liam. Thanks for hanging out. This is like an hour ago. It's hard to tell. This is why. A lot of people get upset that sometimes people move on from reading the chats like this
Mm.
because they feel like, oh man, these guys have gotten so big, they don't read the chats anymore, like Ethan or whatever. But if I read every chat here, sometimes they're talking to each other about like, hey man, I'll see you on Thursday. I'm like, I don't want to read that on here. That's your personal
It's
conversation.
difficult, especially when you're drawing too.
Yeah, yeah. So Uncanny Kodiak says, I've learned a lot from Jim Lee's live streams. Yes, yes, yes. Man, that really is a treasure, man, that we have today with social media. It's totally
Yeah.
forgot.
If only people would use it for good.
Uh, let's see. All right. Elliot, let's see. Kodiak says, Elliot, it won't let me put Linktree in the chat. Just let you know. Okay, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I actually put the stuff in the description below too, Kodiak. Let's see. So they're talking to each other. I see what's going on here. All right. So obviously you guys have something else going on here. Yeah, left a lot. We're just chatting, Elliot. All right. Very cool. So I'll move on to my illustration here. All right. Before I get into more of that, I'm going to figure out the rest of her head, how I want to approach that. I've given her quite the dome. She looks like she's very intelligent. So, I love her silhouette, man. So good. So good.
Thank you. Yeah, I started off with her design, and I added in the hoodie and the skirt were added in kind of on a whim, but I ended up really liking it because yeah, you have a lot of well, actually, you know what? Rogue does have the bodysuit with the jacket. And I think, you know what? That's probably one of the reasons why I put the jacket on her. It's because
Hmm.
I like Rogue's, you know, classic. Well, actually, that's not technically her classic design, but that's the
Right, yeah, no.
Jim Lee '90s
Yeah,
design.
yeah. His classic design,
Yeah, his
definitely.
classic
Yeah.
exactly.
It is
uh,
classic, arguably.
yeah,
It's
whenever I think
classic today.
classic, I think of the scary design when she was a villain, where she's like got the short hair and the green outfit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh,
You know, it's
but
funny because I like that particular design a lot
oh yeah.
because of my childhood. Yeah, yeah. Because at the time I was heavy into X-Men, especially around the time John Romita Jr. was drawing.
Mm.
That was around the time Paul Smith, John Romita Jr., and that's when they introduced her, her first
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, yeah, I hear you. But it was a little like whoa, whoa.
yeah.
It's more of a I wish someone would do something great with that, but there's really nothing you can do with that. That's terrible. Her Pat Benatar hair.
That'd be, you know, that'd be a challenge, but it could be done.
All we need from there is that, and that the best of that whole time for me was Storm's mohawk.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I loved it. No, I did. Just did. Are you into action figures at all?
I used to be, yeah.
Yeah. The Marvel Legends put out an X-Men figure assortment that included Storm in the Jim Lee outfit, and it
Mm.
looks great. That some of this, I'm heavy, and I can't say I'm heavy. I really enjoy sculpting,
Hmm.
and I really admire sculptors who in action figure business because they're working at this. Well, obviously they sculpt at a larger scale and they reduce it digitally now, but still, when you can figure out how to make it hold up at a smaller size,
Yeah.
I'm always impressed. And that figure, she looks gorgeous.
Mm.
If it was a statue, it'd be you put on your shelf like, oh my gosh, this is at least a $300, $400 statue.
Yeah.
In today's market.
Yeah, I actually used to do a little bit of sculpting, but mostly with miniatures, you know, like Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. I used
Uh-huh.
to sculpt my own my own models.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
and for a while I got really into miniature painting. Like I was really, really considering like entering competitions for it because that's a
Oh,
whole culture on its own,
you mean
painting miniatures.
from 40K, Warhammer 40K and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
like Warhammer and the Reaper miniatures and all of that. Yeah, that's
Oh, I love that stuff so much, man. There's a hobby shop in my neighborhood here,
mm,
and they do tournaments, whatever, or they play it there.
hmm.
I
Yeah.
love. People think it's so geeky, whatever. I love it. I love to see dioramas
Oh yeah.
at that scale. Oh, so cool, so cool.
Yeah, I actually built my own sets because you know we got into I used to DM a lot for Dungeons and Dragons, and I would actually build like the full set and everything for the battleground and everything. You know, it gave me an excuse to do some modeling. And there's a company out there called Dwarven Forge, I think, if I remember correctly, and they create these modular dungeon tile sets. And yeah, they were really expensive back when I was into it. So I'm like, you know what? I looked up some tutorials and I learned how to do like create like these create these what are they called, these tiles out of XPS foam. And so I, you know, would whittle away at the foam and then end up, you know, painting it and just creating these elaborate sets for my players to play in. And it was, oh man, it was a lot of fun, but man, I got no time for that anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I I do have a passion for it. Like I have a lot of the books for the Citadel,
Mm,
how to paint your miniature books and stuff like that in my library.
yeah,
I I'm just the same way. I never got into it. It's also an expensive hobby, if
it's
especially if you,
very expensive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, especially if you're doing 40K because it's Gamers Workshop stuff is not cheap.
Nope.
Yeah. But it's so satisfying when you see these little, like I had, again, this is goes back to what I was saying recently. Like I tell my son, there's nothing wrong with being a consumer. It's just if you're a consumer, you can't be a consumer and a producer. Like I'd rather spend that money on art supplies today, or a good,
Right.
the right program, or a better Cintiq, or blah blah blah, whatever. That amount of money, gosh, just disappears.
Yeah.
And you don't have the resources. And I don't have the resources. I told you we're going through some stuff. I gotta figure out how to pay my mortgage. God,
Mm,
I don't have that anymore, man. But I miss it. I never did it because it was always still too far out of my reach. Um but I had a lot of friends who were into model building, and
yeah.
one friend in particular was really this guy named, I just remember his name, Pat. He probably doesn't know even remember me anymore, but he impressed me. He would like, it was like a magic show. He'd show me how he did the jewels on the armor with
Yeah.
like a certain kind of polish or paint, and wow, man, it was so good.
Oh man, I'll never forget. It was like life changing for me. But I remember, you have these models, and if you buy the models, the miniatures, like from Games Workshop, they have you can customize them, and they give you additional appendages. And it's like you have an arm with a sword or an arm with an axe, and it's like, oh, I want to use both of them. It's like I'd love to have both of them, but I have to choose one. But then I learned that there are some people who take it to the extreme and are able to, like, they purchase small little itty bitty little magnets, and they'll drill these very small holes into the limbs, and they'll magnetize them, and you could
Oh
swap them
yeah,
out. And I'm like,
yeah.
are you serious?
Yeah, man. That's a I They do that with statues now too, the bigger statues.
Oh, they
A
do?
lot of Yeah, a lot of guys. This is interesting. So again, because I've always been into toys, and sculpting is a big part of my. Yeah, it's probably more subconscious than it is conscious, but it is definitely has had an impact on my, like Brandy Bowen statues for a while. Those were my art references for a good minute.
Hmm.
Um, and I've always been fascinated by Michelangelo's David and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
So, because it's so fascinating, you can see these great details. So if there's details to be had, like I'm not a big fan of, oh, look at the details in my drawing, but I'm more of a fan of, like, look at the details in the statue, because I know that I can draw a line and a mark that it's just a line and a mark, but to
Hmm.
make something look real in stone or marble,
Oh yeah.
that's so impactful. So what these guys are doing now, like people that collect, they spend a lot of money on these statues, on these, sideshow collectible statues and such. They'll spend, hundreds and thousands of dollars on these things, and then they'll hire the original sculptors to sculpt different heads and features for those statues. And they do the same thing. They get the statues modified so that they can put magnets and change out the heads. I had this one client who used to have like a saber tooth statue. It was
Hmm.
Jim Lee saber tooth, and then he didn't like the head that it came with, so he loved the figure, the overall form. So he commissioned the sculptor to create a new head.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was a thing. And of course, that makes sense, right? They're artists too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just didn't know that just seemed like such a weirdly intricate thing to request.
Hmm.
But they do it, man, and they put the magnets in there. I'm blown away that they make magnets that small.
Yeah, yeah, no
Fit in those
kidding.
little figures. Holy moly! What do you think?
Oh, that's looking really good.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this so far. So I see this comes down to a triangular shield shape here.
Yeah, excellent foreshortening with the with the two with the two fists, and you even got a bit of the upper thighs in there as well. That's always a
Yeah,
plus.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's gonna. I'm borrowing that space for now because I know the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add her skirt here.
Mhm.
But I love. It's difficult from this angle, but I love that you still always leave a little peek, little peekaboo. Can I do that from this angle? Let's see. I have to be creative with the way I handle the skirt flowing. This is interesting. Maybe I come off the skirt comes off the board out the border. Are you planning on reproducing it like this, like with the border on the card?
Yeah, yeah. Like, are you familiar with the Marvel Universe trading cards?
Uh, the trading cards, like the
Yeah,
old ones?
yeah, the old ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Marvel Universe 3 in particular, all the characters had a border, and they had, just a really generic border around them with a very simple background, and the characters
Mhm.
positioned a certain way.
Okay.
But that's kind of what I
Nice,
had in
nice,
mind.
nice, nice. Yeah, looks good. It's gonna be good. You're gonna have the '90s looking textures in the background,
Yeah, something like that.
like Saved by the Bell.
Maybe not that much.
I remember all that. I was like, that it never, it all looked so normal to me, but you look at that stuff now, you're like, whoa, that design aesthetic
That's
was,
retro.
yeah, it was strong. The force was strong with that. Now, I wonder if I just pull her figure down off out of the border altogether. She's stepping out of the border here and have her back leg in the border. Might be kind of weird. Keep it like that. I like that you have her jacket coming off. That's a great way to show the slack in the jacket and the folds
Hmm.
to give her that casual, powerful, like she's I don't know why I like it. So I'm not doing the right job of explaining it. It looks like what looks natural,
Mm.
but it also looks like the way when you're gonna fight something, you need that slack in your jacket. You can't be all cropped up on you. She's just partially pulled off her shoulders on the cover,
Hmm. Yeah.
your number one cover. I love it. So I'm gonna shorten up the.
Yeah, actually, that ties in a little bit to the story. She wears a like I said, she goes through a transformation, and most of her, all her life, she's been a pretty petite girl, really small, and um, despite being small, she's a martial artist, so she packs a punch, but um, she's a little self conscious of her body after she's gone through the transformation, and part of the reason is she wears the baggy jacket to conceal like the musculature, her
Uh-huh.
muscles, her arms, to conceal it so that people won't notice that she's spontaneously
Yeah,
grown the way that she has, but at the
yeah,
same time she's still a little self-conscious about the type of attention it might draw to her. She's not used to being she
all
most people
massive.
have to work out intensely to get that kind of mass, and then here she is, she shows up and she's like boom, and it's like, oh, I gotta hide
Yeah.
this away.
So do you want her to have the jacket, or do you want to
Oh yeah, yeah,
take it
yeah,
off?
it looks great.
That's still part of her costume.
Yeah, but yeah, it'll come off when she gets serious and she really has to get really invested in the fight and stuff like that.
All right, I'm gonna have to reduce her a bit to get that elbow right. So yeah, so I've also been attracted to the just generally the art. I never played Dungeons and Dragons either. I kind of wish I had, because I didn't benefit from the what I think is the best part of that, which is the exercising the creative mind, the
Yeah.
storytelling. Always. And then one of the things that inspired, remember I was working on, for a while I was working on Soul Diver. What inspired that was well, that's not the one, but that came from another idea that I have. The project name is Weird West, but it was
Hmm.
based on a role playing game that my buddies were playing that I thought was just fascinating. Like, man, they were telling me about this, because the guy that was DMing that game was super imaginative. He's really creative. He's a buddy of mine, but I haven't seen him in a while. I kind of want to catch up with him.
Yeah.
If he knew what I was doing now, he'd be like, "Oh man, I want to be part of that." But he had this. There was this whole idea about the characters were in the Wild West, and there was mixing it up with occult, you know, whatever monsters and demons. And this guy had a spirit gun, and it would kill vampires and werewolves. I was just like, what is going on? I love this genre bend,
Hmm.
and the art that came out of that was impressive. And that's always been what I've enjoyed about Gamers Workshop, is the great concepts that come from that as well.
Yeah.
Because the box art is gorgeous. I don't know if I could ever paint, but then the miniatures are so well done too. So they really did a good job of just overall giving you the everything that they're selling you what you're gonna get. It's not like a McDonald's cheeseburger. That thing looks for real. Stuff is killer, man. But again, expensive. When I'm trying to find something that my son and I could do more together.
Hmm.
And so he went there, and he was impressed. But again, I don't have the budget.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff can get really pricey. But
A little pack of orcs was like $50 or $40 or something. I was like,
yeah,
God.
Games Workshop is a little bit more on the expensive side. Like if you want to start off, they have, but then again, it's well, I mean, it also depends what you're looking for. Like if you're looking for high fantasy, or if you're looking for space marines, or it depends
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
genre you're looking for. But they have like Reaper miniatures and all of those other guys, dark fantasy. They put out these miniatures that are, you don't, they're not modular. You don't build them up like you do um the Games Workshop miniatures, but
Hmm.
they're mostly there for if you want to paint them.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well,
another.
I'll tell you.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say another. If you're interested in modeling, there's also Gundam.
Yeah. So that was what kind of got me started. There was a store here in town that used to be called Merlin's. It was a crazy store. It was an occult bookstore. I've never been. I didn't realize it was that either until I kept seeing people who were very interesting personalities shop there all the time. And it turned out there were a lot of people who were into Wicca and stuff like that. So I was like, whoa, that's different. I didn't realize that. So anyway, they also sold comics and models.
Yeah.
And man, I had never even seen an anime, never once. I was just blown away by those models.
Hmm.
And I would that was my original distraction. That happened to me when I was in school, in art school. And I would cut class to go there just so I can look at the models and fantasize about buying them, because those were also expensive. But I tell you, man, because the ones I wanted were the larger ones that had the
Yeah, yeah,
weights.
absolutely.
Oh man, oh so good.
They have some, they have some entry level ones that are really intricate, and they're affordable. But then once again, you have to
Yeah,
buy the supplies and you have to invest in it, and then
yeah. I
yeah.
would just get the snap tight stuff.
Hmm.
I get that far. But then I had a friend who would do the whole thing. He would dip it in a ink wash.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh man,
It gets
that
into all the little crevices and all of the
yeah,
little creases. Yeah, they actually I have I used to do the washes, but then I got lazy and I bought the liners. They actually sell markers that
yeah.
are specifically designed to get into the nooks and crannies. And yeah.
That's nuts. That's nuts. But I love it. I love it. I love the way it looks when it's complete.
Oh,
It's
have you seen like the professionally painted ones?
not no, not so much.
Yeah, Japan has like this competition that they put out there, and just
Oh,
seeing some of these customized Gundam figures, the paint jobs are absolutely out of this world.
oh. Hey, Kung, real quick. I noticed that she in the bottom image, she's not using the purple shield on her shoulder and chest. Is that not the final design?
Oh, yeah, the one on my Indiegogo, the very, very bottom, that was the very first finalized design, and that's not
Okay,
relevant anymore. Yeah, she has that V shield.
okay, that's perfect. So I'll go from there. Are you okay if I go with this digitally
Yeah,
and take it all the way
absolutely.
through digital? Okay, even better, even better. It'll keep me a little sped up a bit. I'm liking it a lot, man, so far. I think what I'm going to do with her hair here, I'm going to cut some of her hair off here and have some of it kind of come this way
Hmm.
so we can occupy more real estate on your card, but also make it look a little more dynamic. Yeah, it was Gundam, and then I remember one of my favorite models. My favorite ones was based on this anime Man.
Hmm.
And I'd loved to this day. I still do it when I draw my. Here, I'll do a little quick little layer here. I'll draw what I call 10-second sketches,
Yeah.
and I'll just do little figures to kind of get pose. And at the very end of each arm, I just draw a little circle for the hand, the fist. And that's because in the Man, they did such a great job of this really ornate, not ornate. It was just very cool shape, forearm, for example, and then the fist was on this little ball joint, and it came out like this. It almost looked bony, but it
Mm.
was so cool, man. And I was like, God, I love that little guy.
Yeah, yeah, that
And
was very cool.
I had it for a while, and I got rid of it. I think I lost parts of it because then again, I've been an action figure guy for so long, so I was like, if it didn't move enough, I like to pose them, and I would always mess it up or lose parts or something. I think I'm gonna try to find it again though, because I love that anime. I'm gonna buy that anime. That's a good anime.
Mm.
I just picked up because I wanted to have some specific things um, on hand on Blu-ray, so I didn't have to keep finding who had it on Hulu or whatever.
Yeah.
I picked up Cowboy Bebop, the series on Blu-ray
Hmm.
for Christmas. I got it. I got Outlaw Star was another one I love,
Hmm.
and Mazen Kaiser SKL.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another great one. I love that. That that whole that's the anime that I that and of course Ninja Scroll, but
Yep.
they use those same types of proportions, and I love that the long slender. I don't draw that way that necessarily, but I appreciate this the structure of those designs.
Yeah.
Um, are you at all into games, video games?
Oh, yes, very much so.
Okay, yeah, I don't get to play them. I still have a PS3 and I still haven't played 90% of what I have in games.
Mm.
But I love this game called Bloodborne that I've learned
Yep.
about, and they kind of incorporate that aesthetic. Very long, slender figures, and then
Oh yeah. Now that I think about, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's true.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. For the hunter and everything.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I get all geeked for it. Let's see here. 3D Robin says the Reaper Bones plastic model set stuff is good to start on. What's Reaper Bones?
Reaper Bones is like their entry level miniatures. They're made out of a type of soft plastic material. They're flexible. Um, they could get a little bit of warping as a result of them, but you just dip it in some hot water, and then you can mold it back to the shape that it was originally. Like basically like whenever like one of the basic ones is like this skeleton with a sword or a saber, and it never fails. Whenever you get it in the package, the saber is just warped. It's like the blade is completely curled, so you
Oh
have to
no,
dip it
no.
in hot water, and then you're able to straighten it up.
So that's and they're just small, but they have that same look though.
Yeah, and then
Okay, I'll check that
once
out.
you paint them up, you prime them and you start painting them. They end up looking pretty good.
Somebody asked in the chat. 3D Robin asked, "Do you have any old photos of your painted models?"
Um, I don't have any photos. I do have one somewhere around here. Um, Actually, you know what? I know exactly where it is. I'll be right back. Let me go grab it for you guys real quick.
Okay. And I see Durkin or Draken. Is it Draken? Or do you like to just leave it Draken? But no one pronounces it right, not even me. The U is unvocalized and the KK is it's morphs into a G sound. Okay. I can explain where it comes from, but meh. Ah, oh, well, I'm actually curious. So one of these days, message me if you don't want to put it here. That's actually pretty cool. I actually find that stuff kind of interesting. I'm big on, well, that's a name, but personally, I'm big on like learning the history of words and spellings are interesting to me too. So let me see what else here. What do you mean ride well by thicker? What does that mean? I made her pretty thick, man. What do you want? This is perspective. Maybe I can maybe thicken her leg this way. Yeah, it could be thicker actually. But she's farther back in the image. I don't want to make, and she'll just look like she's overly hippie. That's no good. She's not trying to just be. She's not just hippie. She's sexy. She's thick. All right. So I like this so far, man. I think it's coming out pretty cool. Dun 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 dun. So let's see, Michael Ross. How do I improve my Photoshop drawing? Man, Michael, it's just drawing pretty much. Just keep drawing, and it seems like there's more. There's some kind of magic bullet to it, but it really isn't. There's no difference between drawing in Photoshop or drawing in on paper, unless you're not using a Cintiq. I would recommend a Cintiq if you can, or at least a tablet, so you can practice that way. But if you're just wanting to improve drawing, digital or not, it's just drawing will improve that. So that's my suggestion. Rotwell says the legs, he wants thicker legs.
Thicker legs.
I'll do my best to oblige.
All right, so let's see if I could get this light on here. That works. Are these gonna show up though?
I'm gonna just put the screen on you.
Is that gonna focus? Terrible, terrible, terrible. The lighting and everything. Let's see if I could get like would a flashlight work? Oh, whoa, that's weird.
I talking about the little ridged light.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes from the LEDs. I have a lamp that I put over my. Oh, I just noticed. No wonder nothing's charging. It's being cut off.
No,
Anyway,
this
sorry.
this one shows
Look
up
at
a little
that.
better.
Oh, you're so cool.
Yeah.
So while
But
you're showing these, when I was a kid, there was a Micro Machines had just come out, and they released a small set of Star Wars based miniature. Like they created the Sarlacc pit and all kinds of stuff in miniature.
yeah.
And that's why I think I love this so much. I love the little tiny things, but you can see the whole image, the whole scene in one shot. It's so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. So these are just like these guys are ghouls from War Games Bakery, or not War Games Bakery, that's a studio that I used to work for. What are they called? Games Workshop.
Okay.
But what I would actually excuse me. What I would do is I would design, like I said, I would design these play sets like tiles.
So good.
And so these are, these are the grids. You would place your characters on the grid, and we'd go through the battlegrounds like this.
That's
And
so
so
good.
this is part of the sewer system that I designed. I have several other tiles, so the adventurers would, you could piece together the maps,
So
and then
good.
and
I
then I
love it.
started getting a little bit more elaborate with them. Started creating like 3D buildings as well.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Like I said, I went nuts with this stuff. So these are all modular. They all fit together. So you can piece them together and make big, huge play sets and settings, and the characters would go through the adventure just like that.
Dude, you're the best DM ever.
I gave them some visual appeal at least. Yeah.
Oh man, that was exciting, man. Oh, dude, that's exactly why. Okay, so yes, that stuff that there was another game that came out years ago now. I got to be careful. I keep thinking, oh, it didn't come out that long ago, man. Some of these things are like 20 years old.
Yeah. And then real quick, here's a sculpture that I made of a monster in
For the
Otyug.
game?
Yeah, for the game.
That's crazy. You should have painted. Did you paint it? That's
I
the finalized.
never got around to painting it.
Obviously, you're busy now, but that looks great.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh man. So do you remember, or have you ever heard of a game called HeroClix?
Yep. Yep, I know HeroClix.
Yeah, yeah. So it had a very similar system. It wasn't as elaborate as like you didn't need a tape measure for your gaming, but it had a grid, and you would. And I remember when the first time I saw the Thinker come up against Hercules
Hmm.
from Marvel Comics, and my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. My imagination. I'm an adult at this point, and I just like it lit me on fire.
Yeah.
And there's something about looking at that kind of stuff. That's why I kind of like. It's almost like if it's too large, like I was explaining earlier about like Michelangelo's statue, you get caught up in the details.
Yeah.
When it's that small, it's the illusion of detail,
Hmm.
and then the illusion of the scene, like in the HeroClix game, where in my mind, the imagination went off. So it's better than pixels from Atari, but not so intensive that I can't appreciate the purpose of what that is. And the purpose of it was to run the game and fight your armies, not just your one guy, not just one statue. So, man, I'm so jealous of what you have there because that looks awesome. I love that little house, man. That's that when you showed that sewer, it reminds me of Diablo, which is why I love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, love that. Ah, Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Love it. One of these days, we should run a campaign on YouTube. It'd be weirdly interesting. It'd probably take too long, but still. Doug threatened a D&D game. And I said, oh, I'm all about it. But when am I going to have time for that? Nobody has time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I used to be really, I used to be really into video games. It was the passion of my life aside from illustration. But oh man, it's just no time for gaming anymore. Like my brothers are thinking about becoming competitive Smash Brothers players, and I'm like, man, I used to, because I used to be a competitive Street Fighter player back in the Street Fighter 4 days.
Yeah.
Heck, even back in Third Strike and ST, I was really into the competitive scene, and I've lived in SoCal most of my life, so we have a lot of great players coming from SoCal who are some of the best players in the world, and so this is one of the best locations to train for that kind of thing. But just I was always into Street Fighter and King of Fighters, but yeah, if you don't keep up with that, I mean, if you want to be competitive, you gotta really stick with it. And I just don't have time to do that anymore.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
Yeah. Well, that's that's ties into some of what we've been talking about lately. I had to really evaluate my time and decide, what is it about, what do I want to do? What's my goal? What am I trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make hard choices about that, but it's sad. I got rid of literally a box. I'm donating a box of toys. And first of all, I'm 45 years old and I'm doing all these toys, but they're important to me from that creative place.
Yeah.
And but then I thought, there comes a point where what you're doing is monopolizing your attention. If it's a hobby, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's just I had to make that choice. If it's a hobby, if I'm a consumer, then all this stuff is hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't invest this much time and resources into this professional effort for it to just be a hobby. And so then I got to decide, okay, well, then what am I going to do? So collecting comics, as an example, is not big. It's not high on my priority anymore like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to still see what's happening in the marketplace. So
right.
I still rely on the videos and the reviews. I still care. I just can't afford to pursue it the way I once did. And that's just a grown up thing. This is growing up. You have to decide how you're going to spend that time. What am I going to put energy into versus what's going to take away my energy? Because God knows that's another thing. It's not just time. The older you get, energy becomes another resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do I have the energy to stay up all night to do this?
Yeah, that, and especially last year was a big year for me because I launched my business, and now it's like I'm managing everything, and I have to deal with finances, and I had to go and get an accountant to make sure that I'm balancing everything. Once taxes come around, I don't want to end up owing. And just had to cut out, like I said, no more video games. I get to play like maybe half an hour every now and then, but it's like I get anxiety, I get anxious, like I should be working instead of playing Soul Calibur 6. I should be drawing Battle Maiden Knucklepaw. And I get a little anxious when I'm not working. And you know, even with finances, you know, I with a business startup, I've been able to invest in equipment, and it's like, is it really, you know, I'm going to be investing in this microphone? Do I need it for, you know, and considering, you know, it was definitely a worthwhile investment because I'm doing so many live streams now, and it's just one of those things that's it's justified because it's going towards the goal, and the goal is to create this comic imprint that's going to be successful and produce comics that people enjoy. So no more, no more. I had to take off one of the places where I buy miniatures, like religion. Like anytime that they put out new miniatures, it's like, oh, I gotta get that. Nope, they're called Kingdom Death, and they put out
Uh-huh.
like these beautiful miniatures, and I had to remove the bookmark and just forget about them because I'm not even gonna have time to build the miniatures anymore, let alone paint them. So it's like that phase is past now, and it's like I'm fully devoted to my comic. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's the right choice. It's the right choice. You know, you are again. It's a matter of what do you want the most?
mhm.
You know, do you want to be? It's doesn't. It's not that you can't do one. The way I kind of I'll do a quick little sketch of this. I created this for my son. I said, look, there's consuming and there's producing, right?
Yeah.
And I instead of doing a straight line, I made a curve because it's almost like an elevator thing.
Mhm.
Um, if you're strictly a consumer, right, then it comes with toys, things, and this is all you care about. You work all day at whatever your job is, which is nothing wrong with that. Every job is noble, in my opinion, and I don't care what you do. But when you're on this end of the scale, it you know, it's you don't you're putting so much energy into your day job. This becomes you know this becomes your relaxing. So
Yeah.
you might whatever your hobby is, it becomes that. For some people, it's television. For some people, it's video games. For some people, it's I don't know, reading, whatever. Um, But if you have any desire and you just think, man, I wish I could create this, or I want to write a story, or this was good, but I wish they'd done this, and I would love to have. I wonder if I could put. If you can, if you're conceiving and dreaming, then you're leaning towards this part of the meter.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is, I mean, this right here is super workaholic at this extreme right here. But I think though depending on how far you are on here with the fewer of these toys you can possibly handle. That the reality is you can only go so far, you can only do so much. I don't know why I keep creating new layers to draw these things and I keep drawing the same layer. Um, foolish human. Um, reality is you just got to make that choice. It's and the but the great thing about it, it's also very satisfying once you've made that choice and you can you commit to the thing that you care about. It's not that I don't care about games. As I tell my son, I love video games. I just don't have the time to play. I care about this more. I get more excitement out of doing a great illustration and coming up with a great new idea
Yeah.
than I ever have, enjoying somebody else's idea. And you don't get to do that until you've tried it, because some people talk about it, but they never do it.
Yep.
Comic shops are full of people who are like, oh, I could write a better story than such and such. Well, do it,
Mhm.
do it. And I'm tired of being that guy too, where I'm just kind of always, we're all at the or it's like talking about sports at a bar, like, oh, yeah, but yeah, this he's lame, he can't do it. That's why I love that movie with Mark Wahlberg. What was it called? Where he tries out for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's based on a true story. Kari Press, what's up, dog? I forget the name of the movie, but it's about he plays this. It was based on a true story where the guy actually went and they were all hanging out. The bar was during the 70s, and there were a lot of people on strike in Philadelphia. various companies and factories. What a weird time, man. That's all gone. Anyway, um, and so the Philadelphia Eagles were doing poorly, and so to help or prompt, some fan love, they held open auditions. What do you call it for sports? Tryouts for the team, and it's all about that. That guy ended up playing for 3 years or whatever for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's just a great story. It's a great story about putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And so that's really what this is about. You decide what you want to do and go after it, and then you'll know if you're really committed to that, for sure.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to what we do, illustration and once sequential art, man, you gotta put in the time, the effort, and really, it's long hours, man, producing the comic, man. Just going through the pages, one page after the other, panel after panel. It's taxing, man. Physically, it's tiring, and not everyone's cut out to do it. You have to have the discipline to stick with it and not call it quits. See it all the way through.
Yeah. So one thing I won't be doing on Otomo is, this is where we go back to that conversation we had about efficiency. I've got to get more efficient with whatever style I'm working in.
Okay.
Because this is the part that I'm like you. I want, it's a commercial art. I understand that. I got to get this done. And not this. I'm talking about the comic. So I got to make sure that I'm planning for success there. Planning to succeed, not to fail.
Well, from what you've told me, the concept, I really, really dig the concept, and I think that that's really going to be, one of the great things. I mean, when you hear a pitch and it, you can feel it. It's like I can feel the soul that you have in your story, and it's like I'm genuinely looking forward to what you guys produce, and then just on top of that, with your artwork, it's going to be. I think it's going to be terrific. I really do mean it when I say that that's, one of the books I'm really, really looking forward to being released.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm very encouraged by that. Okay, so I'm feeling all this. It might be time to just go ahead and start going into the inks. Let me see. I also have to. My body's telling me, this chair, Elliot, it's not you. It's not you. This is inconvenient to your lifestyle. Really? Well, thank you, chair. Your body. Okay. Right, I got some good stuff here. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go for it. Let's reduce opacity, activate inking. There we go. Let's pick my. I bought a bunch of brushes from Kyle Webster before he went heavier with Adobe. So I have a lot of his fun brushes here. Like I said, these aren't necessary if you want to draw, but draw well and then have fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're tools available at your disposal,
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's look at my Photoshop. Over on my Photoshop, let me see if I could open up the brushes. I've got a ton of brushes on this one as well. Just all these brushes, I haven't even used them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they take up a lot of space too.
Yeah. But a lot of these brushes came from like there's a magazine called Imagine FX.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a lot of back when they used to release the books with CDs. I used to
Yes. Yep.
have the CDs and get the brushes from the CDs, and yeah.
Hoping that this is where I'll gain some time, is the digital inking process too. Well, I still plan on doing it traditional, but we'll see. That might change. Pretty much me, what I intended. Michael W. says that movie was called Invincible. Yes, that's it.
Invincible.
Great movie. It's one of Disney's. There's another entry like that. It was called I thought like the USA hockey team, um, Miracle. This one was Invincible. Oh, there's a little set they're trying to do there. Remember the Titans is another version of that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, the Mighty Ducks was another one. Yeah, right on, Dragon. I said, man,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
you messed me up. Now I'm gonna call you Dragon from now on. So now I know. Just like when Kenny Kodak is Bear, you're Dragon.
Dragon, huh?
He said that's the proper pronunciation of what he was intending.
Oh, okay.
Now I know. It always sounded like something out of Capcom's what was that game that's like their big fantasy game? Um, Arisen, something Arisen.
Arisen?
Dark Arisen. I know it's there. Capcom
Dragon's
put out it.
Dogma?
Dragon's Dogma, yeah.
Yeah,
Durricane
Dragon.
reminds me of something out of Dragon's Dogma, but it's not. It's Dragon.
That's right. Dark Arisen is there was the latest version of Dragon's Dogma, if I remember correctly.
Why? That's such an interesting terminology. Why do they call it dark like that? Like, what does Dark Arisen mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, just
Is
when
it
it
just a
comes to
translation?
JRPGs, man, they just throw words out there sometimes. Like one of the most one of the ones that came out that was actually really good by Square Enix was Infinite Undiscovery. Like what?
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. But it was I liked it. I liked the game a lot. It was despite the title, it was a really good game.
Should just called it Always Lost. That
Well,
would have been the same. Oh,
yeah, Infinite Undiscovery, Bravely Default Flying Fairy. That was another really good one.
what?
Yeah,
That's weird.
yeah, Bravely. Well, Bravely Default. They came up with the system, the Brave and Default system. So it's part of the battle mechanics. You can Brave or you could Default, which is the defense mode. But yeah, they just decided, oh yeah, we came up with these two mechanics. Let's just call the game Bravely Default. It's like
All
okay.
right. So someone once told me that, well, it's because of the translations from Japanese to English. I said, okay, I'll grant you that. maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But obviously, the American part of or offices at Capcom were like, hey, we're going to use the same name. Okay, that's one challenge. But I'll challenge this way also. There's a game called Guilty Gear Revelator,
Oh yeah,
XRD
Xrd.
or Xrd. What
Yep.
does Xrd mean? What is that translation?
Who knows?
I'll buy most things if you can sell it to me and convince me of this. I'm down. But Xrd, it doesn't mean anything. It's not even a character in the game or anything. I mean, if it was a character, I could say, oh, it's actually a dude or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Guilty Gear has gone through so many interesting, interesting iterations. I mean, I've been following Guilty Gear since the beginning, since the PlayStation version, which was the first one. But like, what were other ones? Guilty Gear, then X, then XX, I believe. Isuka came out, and just yeah, they went all over the place with Guilty Gear.
Wasn't Guilty Gear for a while kind of like more like a little more risque or at some point?
Mm,
Is that their stick, or am I looking at something else?
you might be thinking of risque. I mean, they have Dizzy. Dizzy was, pretty scantily clad, but Blaze Blue is really where they have some more of the anime
That's
influence, and they have like what was her name? The squirrel girl. Essentially,
yeah,
is what they were. I keep thinking Makoto. Is it Makoto? But yeah, she's got like the under boob showing off and everything like that.
yeah, that's right. You're right. It is Blaze Blue. Yeah, yeah, that's weird. That's
Yeah,
weird.
I actually, it's funny because I met my. I mean, technically we're still married, but we're separated. My wife. We met in Final Fantasy 11.
No kidding.
Yeah, we met in Final Fantasy 11, and what's funny though is we both ended up years later working for Square Enix, and I was actually a GM for Final Fantasy 11 and 14,
Ah,
and she handled things on the accounting side, so like accounts, payments, and everything like that. Whereas I was the one wielding the banhammer.
that's interesting. I didn't know you were that involved in the industry like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was I wanted to make video games, and yeah, I wanted to use my art to create video games. I can create an entire beat 'em up game, like as far as the visuals go, like the UI, the character sprites, and everything. I just can't code the thing. So
Ah,
yeah.
huh. Have you ever talked to Doug about some of this stuff?
No, but I was a big Earthworm Jim fan back in the day. I played the heck out of that game.
'Cause he still has people that I think he talks about that from time to time that still do that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Even I think he got some people involved who were let go from who was it like the recent thing that happened. A bunch of people from a particular company got let go. He picked them up to help him out with the Bigfoot Bill game demo that he's put together
Oh,
for
really?
the backers. Yeah, yeah. I haven't asked him about that in a while. I think he's just been super busy with the book, but he had that actively happening. There was a demo. It was supposed to be based on Earthworm Jim's, like the engine for Earthworm Jim, whatever they use for that,
Yeah.
and but with Bigfoot Bill.
Dude, if he can pull that off, like if he pulls off like the because retro gaming is really really big, more
Yeah,
so now than before, and a lot of people try to pull off pixel art, but they don't do it quite as well.
yeah.
But yeah, if he can play off of that retro appeal, and if he does, I don't know what kind of art direction he wants to go for Bigfoot Bill as far as the video game's concerned, but man, that'd be that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I have to find it. He posted a little animation of it, I believe. Um, let's see, Telltale Games. Lots debate whether they're actually games. What's Telltale Games?
They did like oh, what was it? The Walking Dead. And the thing is that they're more like
Like a story. That was
yeah,
like the one that's like a
more
comic.
yeah, kind of more like a dang it, what's it called? Not visual novel, is it? Maybe. I never actually played them. I just heard about them.
Oh, those are also the guys that did the Batman game, which I think was Telltale. I think that's what he's making specific reference to. It was, I think that's what it. They did a Batman comic story game, something or other.
Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
A fighting game for Knuckle Bomb might be cool, Street Fighter style.
That's how I designed Knucklebomb's Rogue Gallery, to be honest. They could all fit into a fighting game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Love it. So I'm a little more ham-handed on this when it comes to using digital tools for inking. I try to capture what I try to do with my pens. I'll try to go back later with a little razzle dazzle. A different brush, give it more of a. Or maybe what I could do is I can get farther. This might be another way to kind of reevaluate the process. Maybe there's a way to do like almost like how normally people will spot their blacks in Photoshop and then they'll come back later. I wonder if there's a way to kind of do your initial this type of stuff that I would do with like a micron or something, and then come back later, print it out, and then do some brush work over it. Never tried that. I think my computer's angry that I'm running Photoshop while I'm online. I'm liking it. Let's see. The big problem with fighting games is is that people want online connections, and getting that down is hard.
Yeah, I mean, my brother says that who is it? Like my brother's really he has never let go of Third Strike, and there was a GGPO that had I wonder if they're still doing it, but yeah, he still plays Third Strike online, and the Third Strike community has always been tenacious. They hang on to that game because it's so skill heavy. So it's Third Strike players are just, oh my gosh. But
it's a beautiful game.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think it still holds up to me. For me,
oh, very much so.
I am actually not a big fan of. I just downloaded on my phone. I was curious. They put out a Street Fighter V was released on mobile. It looks like I'm playing a claymation. Like reminds me of Killer Instinct or something like that. It doesn't feel
Clay
like
Fighters.
Street Fighter game. Yeah, Clay Fighters. It feels like that. It's weird.
No, the problem is, Capcom they're getting a little better with the models, but the problem is they're not applying the same animation principles that they used with their sprites, because with their sprites they animated them like traditional well, traditional animation. You had the stretch and pull, and or rather stretch and contract. And you had all of these animation rules that they followed that allowed for these very smooth flowing animations. But then when they brought it over to the 3D, you'd have to do some really interesting camera tricks in order to pull off those really smooth and exaggerated poses. Like if you actually look at the way that Arc System works, is the way that they coded, or rather the way that they created Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Yeah,
They
I've
have
never played it. Is that good?
It's good. Unfortunately, it's lost a lot of momentum, but there's still people who play it. But the game is visually gorgeous. But the way that they pulled it off, because it looks like the anime, like with the whenever it transitions to like these cutscenes with the characters doing their special moves, cut to the camera will cut away from the standard view, and will start with the cinematic display of the character performing the move. They actually hacked the camera to see what it would look like if you were just playing regularly, and like in order to pull off some of the angles, they had to like enlarge the limb of the character by like 3 times the size to like
Mm,
pull off some of the exaggerated angles and expressions. And so it's a lot more difficult to get that flowing, that just very smooth flowing animation. Actually, not even smooth flowing. It's just, you look at like there's a website out there, and they I think they even made a YouTube video, but somebody goes through and analyzes frame by frame, for instance, like Chun-Li doing her Kikoken in Third Strike, and just how her body moves, and just in some of these very exaggerated positions that the body normally would not be, twisted in this sort of way. But
mhm,
because of the way that they did it, it makes the animation just flow and has this weight to it that is really, really convincing. And when you look at the 3D model, it just lacks any of that. It's just, it looks so mechanical, like a puppet.
mm.
And yeah, it's just, unfortunately they lost a lot of the soul of the
Yeah.
animation with the 3D models, which is why, a lot of fans want a 3D Darkstalkers. If you look at
Mm.
the 2D game, the animation on that game was just off the wall. Like they had some
Yeah.
really goofy animations. I
Yeah.
don't know if they'd be able to pull it off in 3D.
I agree. This goes back to, it's not fair to compare it there, but this goes back to a comment I was making the other day that I was being challenged on. But how some of these, to me, 3D is like trying to make something live action.
Mm,
The 2D stuff is kind of where I think it should stay, because there was genuinely, in this case, you're identifying a real challenge to reproduce it, um, in this digital format, whereas it was just fine. I mean, I guess I don't want to be a curmudgeon about it, but it just makes sense to me to leave it in this 2D format and just do. I prefer the 2D anyway because I like the art of it.
yeah.
For me, the 3D models is very rare that I can get into a 3D model anything, because you know, it's just, it doesn't look crafted. So I'm hung
Mhm.
up on that, but I can be proven wrong. I've been proven wrong a thousand times. I'm just saying, in this case, I have yet to really, because I like the look of it. Street Fighter Five and all that stuff looks great. Looks cool.
Yeah.
And they did some cool textures to make it look like it was, hand rendered or painted or whatever. That's nice. But at the end of the day, I don't believe it the way I believe the cartoon, because in its own context, the animation of it was just such a slick presentation. Third Strike looked so good. The movements were seemed so natural. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I just
Well,
like
also
stuff.
the amount of with when it comes to the 3D, they create the model, they rig it, and then they're able to manipulate it and animate it. But with the sprites, you have to draw each individual sprite, and there's no shortcut. I mean, there are shortcuts. You could recycle some of the limbs and some of the basic like some of the bigger shapes of the body, but for the most part, you have to handcraft each and every individual frame, which it was really interesting, going from the arcade and then going back to the home console, the Super Nintendo, or the Super Nintendo at the time, watching playing Street Fighter 2 at the arcade. I would notice some frames of animation that were not present in the home console version.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, just that was part of, I don't know, younger, I didn't really understand what I was seeing at the time, but it was just a little bit of the magic behind, the arcade and the home console version. It's like, whoa, why does it look so much better than the home version? And then I'd go to the arcade and I'd kind of look at it and just study it and see, like, certain frames were different, and they were like, just, it's like, oh man. And even with RPGs, 2D RPGs, they age gracefully in comparison to, like, Final Fantasy VII, for instance. I love Final Fantasy VII, but man, if you go back and play the original, the PlayStation version of it, it is like, the pre-rendered backgrounds are still really nice, but I mean, the character models they're little blocks, they're polygons.
Yeah. 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 You're right. 3D Robin's challenging me. If you like 3D and Spider-Verse, though, right, Elliot? Yeah, I did. I did, and I think they went out of their way. And that's okay. That's a good example of where it just needs to be. But yeah, that's different from a game to the game to all that's involved in making a game work. There's some, again, you're not manipulating. I'm not manipulating Miles Morales with a joystick and 6 buttons. It's I think it's a little different when in cinematics, where I like cinematics, all the cinematic stuff I like. Um like what was it? Blizzard stuff in the
Mm,
earlier versions of Diablo and Warcraft. The cinematic stuff is beautiful to me.
yeah.
I'm not talking about that. It's like, it kind of reminds me of when Virtual Fighter first came out and that kind of stuff. It was a great step into a different look. I'm not crazy about the look.
That's why I was never crazy about the N64. Like, to me, the games on the
Uh,
N64 just did not look good.
like Mario.
Yeah, I mean, Mario was like, I can't deny how good Mario 64 was, but just overall, most of the games on the N64 were just way too blocky for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that. And same, like, I remember Rogue Squadron and all that stuff was like that. Yeah, yeah. What are you gonna do? I this goes back to the same thing we were saying earlier. It's almost like, it's either it is what it is, or we can make something different.
Hmm.
And you have to accept some of those limitations as what they are, or who it was intended for. This version of her, the way I'm inking it, reminds me of an actress. I can't place it.
An actress?
Yeah, I can't even place. I'm only assuming it's an actress or someone that I know. Face in particular. Yeah, I'm drawing her. I think it's working out pretty good though, man.
Yep.
I'm happy with it. I got these brushes once from a I forget the guy. He was on Deviant Art, and the overall lot of fingerprint brushes and things like that. And he tweaked the brush in such a way that that was the one of the few times where a brush was had a great effect on it.
Mm.
I'm gonna try to find that brush because I think it's pretty cool. It makes nice. It's not good for this because this is very clean, but the way that I was able to do these really random shapes. Unfortunately, it wasn't my shapes; they were programmed into the brush. But it was cool. I did a little series, what I would call my earliest black and reds. It's funny. I've been obsessed with that color palette for a long time. It was digital in Photoshop. I did these women's faces. Just find those. I did them all with that. I'm gonna soften up her jaw a bit here. Knuckle bomb. Do you have in your head at all like music that goes with Knuckle bomb?
Music? My brother is actually working on the theme song for her.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
What? What's the genre?
Metal. Yeah, my brother's the he's one of the guitarists for a thrash metal band called Holy Grail. And yeah, he's doing the song for me. And it sounds like, oh man, I was so happy when I heard it. It sounds like something right out of Dynasty Warriors.
Oh, great. Oh, great. I can't wait to hear it. How are you gonna share that kind of stuff at all? Or
Oh yeah,
how would
absolutely.
you? What's
That's
the purpose for that?
the purpose is if there's ever an anime adaptation, that's going to be the theme song.
Nice,
But also just
nice.
something to get hyped for, and just you know, Knucklebomb has been really successful, and I'd like to bring other people up with me through my project. And
Uh-huh.
so my brother is a very successful musician, and so I'm like, dude, get in on this. Let's do a let's see what you can do with the song. And yeah, he's gonna do a song. I'm paying him to do the song and gonna put it out for everyone to listen to. And
Ooh.
yeah.
Like on SoundCloud or something,
Um
or
yeah,
iTunes.
probably. I was gonna just do it on YouTube initially, but yeah, probably SoundCloud would be a better idea. Or both.
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
But yeah, it's like I don't expect it to be picked up for animation, but I mean, you could dream.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do the same thing. I think of soundtracks to all my stuff too. A lot of my stories, my concepts, obviously, I'm heavier into visual development, but what do you call it? Oh, I'm gonna name this file here. Um, but many of my concepts came from story ideas that I was listening to a song. So I think you may have heard me talk about Atomo. Well, I came up with Atomo first, but the song that the story of Atomo came to me, him fighting robots and things like that, came to me from Foo Fighters. There Goes My Hero,
Hmm.
and I heard the song, listened to the song as I was jamming at work one time, and I'm listening to the lyrics and the riffs and everything. I was like, man, I saw the story in my head, like if it was a music video or an animation,
Yeah.
as long as the music was. And to this day, um, that's my soundtrack for Tomo.
Very cool.
But I've had other songs that came from like old love songs and R&B songs,
Hmm.
and I have a new idea that I'm putting together that I'm working, just trying to put a little pitch together for it. Um, that oops, that came from an old Motown song. So now I'm like, oh, gee whiz, I got a bunch of these different ideas cooking. Now that I'm getting full into the mode of comic creation, ideas are starting to come to me more often, which is dangerous because I'm falling in love with new concepts before I finish the other. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So right now my computer's thinking. It's trying to get a chance to save this document fully. Corlanda says, "Tell your brother he's right to play the third strike until the sun burns out." Let's see. Just looked up Holy Grail on Spotify. Can't wait to check it out, says Project Mage Punk.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget. You know, it's like he started off with a band called Bonded by Blood that he helped found, and he helped form the band, and they were really successful. They were produced by Dave Mustaine, and yeah, so you know that was a thing, and then that band broke up. He went over to Holy Grail, and you know, he's touring around the world, and yeah, he's still my little brother, so it's like I'm not really thinking I'm not really thinking of him as like a rock star or anything like that. But then I'll never forget, he was in Europe at the time, and like our dad was asking if he could use his motorcycle to go to work or something like that, and he called up my phone because he couldn't reach the house for whatever reason, and he asked me, you know, to forward a message to our parents, and I'm like, what is that noise in the background? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm just watching South Park with Zach Wilde. I'm like, get out of here, what are you talking about? He sends me a picture, and sure enough, he's chilling with Black Label Society, watching South Park, having beers and laughing. I'm like, we grew up watching like Ozzy at the Budokan and watching Zach Wilde, and now he's chilling with them, having a beer and watching South Park. And I was just like, okay, yeah, you've made it.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations to him. And to you, man. I can't wait to hear the song.
Me too. I've heard you know, a snippet of it, so it's still in development.
Yeah, music is a big part of. I'm not as into music as I used to be, but music is still part of my creative process for sure. I like storytelling. I like any way to convey a message like that. So it's just I'm not into music because I'm not into a lot of what I'm hearing out in pop and that sort of thing. So I'm just not impressed with that. It's just not inspiring. It's not as bad. It's just not inspiring. Let's see here. 3D Robin says 64 could only pump 5K polys per frame, really. Oh, sure. Yeah. Regardless, I don't care.
Yeah, they worked within their limitations, that's for sure, and they pushed it to the limit.
Yeah, I ended up getting that game for my 3DS. I have a 3DS I never touch either because I'm still working that technology. I'm old, man. I'm old. No, you know what? It's not so much old. You know what it is that if you ask me about the latest Cintiq or the latest this tool or that tool, that's what I'm more interested in at this point. It's not that I can't hang with this conversation with other things or technology. It's just that, again, I'd rather buy that stuff than.
Yeah, it's relevant to your profession now, you know?
Yeah. And my son, he's all up on the latest thing. And my other buddy, he picked up one of those cabinets that they've been selling at Walmart. They've been selling the
Oh, the
one-ups,
one-ups, yeah.
and he's all into it. Like he's modifying it to make it more like an old school
Ah, okay,
arcade.
okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah. He bought that special tape to put around it. I'm like, yeah, that's great, man. He's like, you don't think it's? I said, no, it's cool, man. It's just, do you have an iPad I can work on? I'm just just saying. He's like, man, you don't care. Like, no, not really. Keep going. It's fun though, man. He's getting it modded to where he's getting the one of those hard drives where it comes with like thousands of games,
He's
literally
getting a
like
MAME.
5,000 games. Yeah, MAME and something else. That's another name for another product that's out there now. I said, all right, man. You're never gonna play all those games, but go ahead, sure. I had it for a while on my computer, and I was like, oh, there's so many games, and I don't have time for that mess. The only thing I look at now, like I'm impressed with indie games. So there's a company that produced a game called, because I like horror, I like H.P. Lovecraft.
Sure.
the what's it called? Oh, it's on Steam. I bought it on Steam. What is it called? It's a weirdly drawn game, but it's so unique. Let me see here. It's on my desktop somewhere. I picked up Battle Chasers. Did you check that out at all?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't. Yeah,
it was really cheap over the Christmas holiday on Steam, so I picked it up, and it's cool. It's mostly interesting because if you like Joe Madureira.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's okay.
No, I enjoyed the comic.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's neat. I'm using terms like neat for it because it's got a weird vibe to it, but let me see if I can turn on Steam real quick. Oh, I shouldn't do that because it's probably gonna mess up my Wi-Fi. Anyway, let me try it. Not mine. I don't see it. Man. I picked the Banner Saga. Gorgeous art. And it was also very inexpensive over the holiday. And I got the bundle that came with the music, the soundtracks.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, those are really good. Those are really, really well done, actually. All right. I don't see. I hate when I launch something, it doesn't want to work. Dark. It's dark something. Dark. Uh-oh, I think I did something terrible. Darkest Dungeon is the name of the game.
Which one was it?
Darkest Dungeon. So
Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off Steam because it's slowing me down all of a sudden. Oh, for crying out loud. Sometimes I feel like I'm pushing my computer too far, and I feel like Charlie Brown when old girl calls him a blockhead. That's how I feel sometimes. I knew this was going to be a mistake. If Photoshop is acting buggy when I'm running Google Hangout and YouTube, then I should know better than this. Let's quit out of that.
Yeah, actually, this past summer I built a gaming rig thinking I was gonna game on it. No, I've been streaming and working on it. So at least,
seems so. A good video processor in it and everything.
Yeah, I got a 1080 in it, so it's set for a good for a good while.
Nice. Those seem to work pretty well for graphic art.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for crying out loud! Now it's downloading something.
Oh, the auto updates.
No wonder. It's just locked up. It was not locked up. I could still communicate here, obviously, but it's okay. It's just action. Windows is invisible to me. So, oh no, nope, I did it. Okay, this might be the end of this session.
Oh, really?
Well, it's this happened to me yesterday. I was working on something. I think I thought it was because I had too many windows open in Chrome. I've been downloading files that I've been needing to grab, and I'm saving them on my. I'm not putting them to my backup hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there's a principle that I've learned about Apple that we have to try to keep the hard drive 50% clean.
Oh, I see.
For some reason, that's a little tweak, and but it may also be just that I'm trying to run these oddly intensive applications at one time. So all I'm trying to do is quit out of Steam. I can't seem to get into that. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Force quit. Where you at? It's probably a bad idea, but oh, yep. Here we go. That's gonna take 10 minutes to force quit. Done. We did it.
Very nice.
Jungle. Ah, much better. Right now, get my cursor back down here. All right. No, now my computer. What you were doing? Okay. God bless us, everyone. All right. I see now your monitor just came back on. Okay, good. Okay. All right. No, still got the beach ball of death. Okay. Hold, please.
Oh, the beach ball, the loading icon.
Yeah. This is a great art department names we give stuff. Oh, the beach ball of death.
Yeah.
All right. So, regardless, we're at a good spot here for her. I might get rid of that shadow on the side of her nose. It's like making her look a little masculine. I like yours is better. Keep it closer to the inspiration. Okay. This is soften her up more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's looking good though.
Yeah. It's better. All right, let's see. I think we've been on for a little bit. This chair is starting to take its toll on me. I think we're gonna wrap this one up, but is there anything Jose, what's up, man? Yes, I have been, sir, and I've been joining big groups today, and now I'm gonna come back later. I put your link to Knuckle to Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb in the description. Is there anything else you want me to point to?
No, that's about it. It's Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb currently available on Indiegogo. The in demand will be closing up in April, so yeah, if you're interested, check it out.
Nice, very cool. I do recommend you guys check that out. I should do this. I gotta get better at doing it more often through the stream. But please check out the link in the description and back this book. This is really cool. If you like manga, if you like anime, if you like Street Fighter, if you like any of those types of things that get us all pumped up for fun stuff, this is it. I also want to recommend you guys, if you have interested in any commission work, you can check me out on Twitter under Jerkmonger, or also on Instagram under Elliot Fernandez _art. Or you can message me here on YouTube as well. But either way, I want to thank Mr. Lee for hanging out with me. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for being a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you for your insight, man. Some great stuff came from today. I hope you guys were paying attention, because this is kind of what you guys have been asking for. If you are interested in learning more about how to become a better artist, principles, all that kind of stuff, you get it from us. We're here sharing it all the time. We're online all the time. So give us a spin, drop us a message, what have you, and let's talk. For all the rest of you, Godspeed. God bless you guys. Have a great Sunday, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.
Take care.